The Hangout is live. We are live. Now let me pull up the video just to make sure that we're actually seeing some shit.
So while you're
Welcome,
doing that,
everybody.
I'll say hi to Josh, hi to Wolfman's Got Nards, hi to Heaton's Music.
Yep, there we go. Okay, yep, we're live. We're looking good. Everybody in the chat, hello. So this is a spoiler chat between me and CP regarding the new Pet Sematary. I believe him and Emily are dropping their reviews sometime soon. I dropped mine this morning. Is a spoiler.
Oh, there you are. I hear you.
Yep. All right. Where's my screen here? Okay, cool. Trying to get everything organized. So yeah, guys. So what we're gonna do is just kind of run down some of the details that we didn't want to spoil because we're not assholes who make trailers, and kind of give some more in-depth thoughts. My more in-depth thoughts. I haven't heard CP's just basic thoughts yet, but going into what we liked about the movie, what we didn't like about the movie. We'll talk about the original a little bit too. Have you read the novel?
For school, like forever ago.
Okay.
So yes, but I
yes-ish.
Yeah.
No. So I've never read the novel. All I have to go on is the original 1989 film. So for the few of us out there that does not know who you are, CP, tell us who you are, about your channel, where we can find you, what we can find when we're there.
I'm CP. I'm over on the channel Wiliscredia. Just bunch of movie shit. My wife's taking over the channel, and if that's not what's happening, I'm covering all the movies that nobody wants to watch, apparently. Stuff like Serbian film.
Your own goddamn fault.
Yeah, dude. If you guys are a whore for the horror stuff, I'm a whore for those solo clicks. Shit.
Damn right. All right. So something else, guys. Chime in on the chat and make sure the video and the audio is good. Is one of us too loud? One of us drowning out the other one? Let us know. But so I think what we'll start off with, I'll go ahead and start first. Let's talk about kind of our experience with Pet Sematary as far as like whether we read the novel, what you remember from that, our experience and our kind of basic reviews of the original and what we expected going into this. So I did not read the novel, but the original 1989 film is one of those horror films that my dad introduced me to that we would continuously rewatch. And it was always like a big event. Like I have a lot of memories of like, 9:30, 10 o'clock at night sitting around. I don't know, what do you want to do? Because my dad was a single parent and I was a single child for a while. And then all of a sudden I had 18 brothers and sisters. But back when it was just me and him, it'd be like, I don't know, let's start on Pet Sematary. And it was always like this cool, yeah, let's do that. And I just remember almost every single time, by the time we got to the Zelda shit, my dad would be asleep. So I'd be like, I'd be watching it and then I'd look over.
There's no one here to help.
I'd look over the couch and be like, so that's kind of my memory. But I always loved the movie growing up, and I've said this before because I have reviewed the film on my channel. Pet Sematary is the only horror film that has evolved as I've gotten older because it was creepy on its own when I was a kid for all the face value stuff, Zelda predominantly. But as an adult, after having kids of my own, you rewatch the movie with some new eyes, and it's astonishing how well the movie really dives into like grief and the horrors of losing a child and the different like mental reactions you have to something like that. And it's a movie that's even more terrifying now. And I've seen it dozens of times. I know what's around every single corner. I know everything that's going to happen, but certain scenes now as a father, still I'll rewatch it. I got halfway through it before we started this stream and it still hits me in the gut. And it's the only horror film that has that.
Hereditary's pretty close with that grief type.
Well, I mean, it has that reaction for me.
Oh, for you. I'm sorry.
Yeah. But I agree. And then my expectations for this remake, it's not necessarily a movie that I needed remade, but it does seem like there's a lot of divisive opinions on that 1989 movie in the horror world. It seems like you're either a diehard fan or you don't think it's all that special and you don't understand what's so special about it. That seems to be kind of the temperature that I've seen since this remake was announced. But I was intrigued by the directors because I've heard a lot of people say that Starry Eyes is really good. I've yet to see it. I bought it, so I'm going to go watch it sometime this weekend. Yeah, Lee talks about it quite a bit. The casting choices, especially John Lithgow, really got me interested because that was kind of the one character I was worried about. The first trailer really sold me. But then we got into this controversy with trailer 2 and the final trailer that they dubbed it, which I never even heard anything about. But trailer 2 spoiled a huge change of direction that they were taking. that I tried to avoid and managed to avoid for about 4 hours before social media shoved it up my face.
That long, huh?
Yep. Record time. So yeah, so a lot of controversy going into it, but I still expected it to be an interesting watch, even knowing what the changes was, because that change on paper opens up a lot of possibilities. So I was really curious of what we were going to get. And if you saw my spoiler-free review, you know that my thoughts were, So before we get into my thoughts, CP, what's your experience with Pet Sematary, and what were you expecting out of this remake?
Well, Pet Sematary is quite near and dear to me. If anything, I had a lot of similar characteristics as Ellie, the daughter in the original. I was really afraid of death, and my mom's a bit of an asshole, and took me to see Pet Sematary in the movie theater. As I don't remember how old I was, like as some 6, 7, 8-year-old kid, I saw Pet Sematary in the theater, and wow, that was a long month of sleepless nights after that. It instantly hooked because I could relate to Ellie and her fear of death, and the movie is just like it's porn for people who feel miserable about death and the terrible feeling of loss and all that dreariness, and it's just a gray movie as far as emotion is concerned. And it's like you said, the more you grow up, that it has certain scenes have different meanings to you, and there's I don't have children, but I've been with women who did have children, and that Gage scene, that truck scene, you don't even really need to have kids to understand the power of some of the shots and the scenes in that movie. I mean, that head-on truck going into Gage right in the middle of the road, that you don't have, it doesn't have to be a kid. It could be it could be you, just any old person. Like that is probably the most powerful shot, I think, for me in any movie I've seen before. So wow. I have high regard for the movie. It has its flaws, as does my beloved Friday franchise.
Oh yeah.
But it's as dreary as it is. I'll go back and watch it, maybe once a year. I quite enjoy the movie, and I made the mistake of getting quite fired up for the remake. I said, you know what, maybe they, and I think Hereditary is to blame for this, because I always held Pet Sematary in this regard, that, no movie covers the dread and just the emotion of loss the way Pet Sematary does. And then bang, here comes Hereditary and says, fuck you, hold my beer. And that movie is really, really dreary and dark and gray and just miserable. Entertainingly so, but miserable. So I was like, all right, maybe they're gonna up it and take the Hereditary route and really make a miserable Pet Sematary movie. So I was fired up. Like you said, the casting choices, with the exception of Fred Gwynne, Pet Sematary doesn't really have stars. So it was quite interesting to see. I mean, Jason Clarke is, that guy's done some work. John Lithgow, he's nobody to sneeze at. No. So it was exciting. It was exciting, and on the heels of
Did everybody else lose CP? Oh no, sorry. I lost you for a second. You said on the heels of
it. Okay. It felt like, all right, so we're getting a resurgence in Stephen King stuff. Bring on the trailers. Oh, not all the trailers. I take that back.
Bring on the whole plot.
Yeah. So no, I was fired up. This was probably my. I'm not a comic kid. This was my second most anticipated movie of April, and I'm really anticipating Avengers.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Yeah, I'm with you. So So quick, like for anybody that hasn't seen the movie and you don't necessarily want to dive into so much spoilers, if you just want a quick rundown of my thoughts of the film, and then I'll give CP a chance before we really dive deep into it. I think the first half of the movie had me pretty decently. Like it's kind of, to a degree, it's beat for beat Pet Sematary in the first half, which usually I would bitch about, but it does it in a different enough way where I was like, okay, they're setting up enough to where they're going to really go different in the third act and the second half, to where you kind of need the same types of setup. You know, there's all those big iconic scenes are here whenever, you know, they first get to the house and the truck rolls by, which is in the trailer. Whenever, you know, Pascal dies and then he dismisses him as a dead body, and then he sits up and, you know, says his name, where he visits them at night, and he goes on this little vision basically towards Pet Sematary, which I actually liked how they did that, how they kind of made him walk through the door and all of a sudden he was outside instead of having the whole thing about him having to walk all the way there. I thought that was a neat touch.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I thought that was a neat touch. And then he wakes up and his feet are muddy and everything like that. Everything pretty much up until the death is beat for beat Pet Sematary. But I liked Jason Clarke, what he was doing as being just the regular father, being the doctor. I liked the wife a lot. I don't remember the actress's name, but she was definitely a little bit better than the wife in Pet Sematary for the most part, I think. And I really, really love John Lithgow as an actor, and I really love a lot of things that he does. And I think he does about as good as you could possibly expect anybody who's not Fred Gwynne to do. But just not being Fred Gwynne, you just, as a fan of the original, you just can't separate it mentally. You can't watch what John Lithgow does and appreciate it 100% because it's just something missing. It's the accent, it's the charm, it's the interaction with Lewis and everything. Like he does really good, but there's just something missing.
See, with all the expectation, and like, if you asked me what I was most comfortable with, was it was the fact that John Lithgow was playing, you know, Judd. So it really makes you that much more confused because the character isn't really fleshed out. I mean, the introduction to the other cemetery, it almost seems like he was a villain when he did that, and like without the explanation and like the look that he had on his face, like I was really confused as to what they were going with Judd's character. Because
go ahead.
I mean, in the original, and it sucks constantly comparing it to the original. I mean,
it's
the original,
it's impossible not to. I tried to say that in my review too. I'm like, I'm going to try to review this as its own thing, but it's going to be really fucking hard. So if you're somebody that gets mad at, well, it wasn't as good as the last, then don't even watch my review because there's going to be a lot of that.
Yeah, the original, he's endearing. He saves Gage from the road. You know, they have a beer on the porch. Like, you know, it's a neighborly thing. Where in the remake, it's almost like shady the way he sees Ellie in the near the Pet Cemetery, and the mother's a little guarded about, you know, why he's talking to her daughter, and like they almost give you this, like, you know, don't trust this guy type feel to him. And I mean, if that's what they were going for, neat. But can you flesh that out just a little bit more? Like I'll be on board for what you're trying to do, but just give me a little bit more to it.
Yeah, I'm with you. So the first half of the movie, I was along for it. I wasn't as engaged as the original, but I have that unfair comparison because I love the original so much. But it was a high quality remake for the first half. When you get to the change, when you get to the big scene that kind of sets forth all the events that's going to happen towards the end, pretty much from then on, the movie slowly started to come off the wheels for me. And we're going to save all the details about why for the spoiler section. But just the second half of the movie, the direction they decided to go wasn't nearly as effective as the direction that the novel and the original film goes. And then when you get to the third act, when things are really supposed to get crazy, the movie just flies through the third act. Like, it feels like everything significant that happens in the last half of the story happens within about 15 minutes of each other. It just ends. And I'm like,
yeah,
wow, okay. And then I got up and walked out. And it was just kind of like, that was the last emotion I walked out with was, damn, you really made all this effort to change just to fly through all of the section of the movie that those changes were going to become significant.
Do we have a runtime on it? It felt really short.
40.
Oh, really? All right, so that's pretty short. Yeah, I felt like everything. Like there's more characters, there's more people, but less focus. Like the doctor, you get a scene before, like you get his first day where he has to deal with a nosebleed. I don't know why that was necessary, but meanwhile, you consider the runtime that was padding, I guess. And then the thing, where are we sticking with the first act right now? Where are we as far as discussion?
I just kind of went through the whole thing already, so you can give your whole little spoiler-free discussion for Act 1 through 3.
Spoiler-free.
Just for a moment, then we're going to dive into it. Okay,
so to open the movie, the opening shot of the movie is the end. That's not a spoiler. You get this helicopter shot, down over chaos, and there's a fire next door and bloody handprints on a window, and it appears to be the after effects of whatever happened. I thought that was a bizarre choice. And it's like you said, with the speed in which they did things, that shot doesn't make sense to me up front like that, because it's not like they went through hell over the course of 45 minutes. It was
like 15.
Yeah, the third act cruised. Yeah, the daughter had to be fleshed out a bit more. I mean, for certain reasons, and I thought that was neat. But I never really got the relationship between anybody. Yeah. Husband, wife, father, daughter. Like I didn't Judd. Like none of the relationships felt like, I was never given this moment. Like, yeah, you should really give a shit, because remember how they did that thing that showed you how endearing they are. Like that. I don't know. Take a little bit of time and make me miss somebody or appreciate the relationship, and everything was rushed.
Yeah, and for me, what the point of Pet Sematary is, that's a huge problem, because the point of the movie is exploring grief, exploring the relationships, how strong love can make you do insane things in the wake of death and everything like that. And you don't really get to marinate in the relationships or the emotion at all in this movie, to the point where the movie kind of loses sight of all that in favor of kind of, dare I say, more generic horror movie stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's more about jump scares. It's more about some creepy visuals here and there, some creepy noises. And it's the third act basically turns into a slasher flick for 15 minutes. And that's not what Pet Sematary is about. You know what I mean? There's killing and everything, but that's just not what the movie's about to me. That's not what the story's about. So for me, they really missed the mark. They decided to kind of hone in on.
So first act stuff that isn't a spoiler.
Roll with spoiler time, people. So even though it says spoiler review, you should know better. But if you don't want the spoiler,
so one last thing before we do get to spoilers. In the first act, they have that. I mean, it's in all the trailers, and it's on the image, the thumbnail, the procession with the kids with the masks. I think Ellie comes across that fairly early in the movie, and they don't really explain why that is, like why the kids do that and how that came to be. And
the funny thing is like that, and yeah, they do a lot. I don't know if this is in the novel or not, but they do some significant things in this movie to kind of change the flavor a bit. The kids with their ritual, talking about the Wendigo or Wendigo a little bit more, about the supernatural pull of the Pet Sematary and everything like that. But they do it, and they don't fully realize any of the stuff that they kind of dip into to be different. You know what I mean? Like they never really dive into the kids' ritual. And that would be extremely off-putting to see when you first get there. Like it's off-putting enough to find out that you just bought this huge property that's housing a cemetery and everything in the back. You're like, I would already be making plans on how to exhume that and get it the hell out of there. But then you walk the first day that you're at the house, you see kids in animal masks with a drum taking a dead dog and
a wheelbarrow. Yeah.
It's like, where the hell did we just move? Like, there's this weird stuff. They never really dove much more into that. And there was a lot of opportunity there, which, like I said, maybe there's a longer cut of this movie where they could have dove more into the power of the Wendigo, and maybe it has a pull on these kids and the townsfolk and everything. And that's why, it explains a little bit more about why Judd, after knowing better, kind of gives it another shot, because it's tempting him a little bit. Like, there's stuff in there that I wanted more of.
Yeah.
And if they had fleshed that stuff out a little bit more, I can forgive some of the stuff that maybe they failed on a little bit that I remember from the original film, because you're succeeding with this other stuff. But all the stuff that I like, they just kind of dipped their toe into it and then went back to beat for beat.
That's a hell of a point, because there's a couple of things where they just kind of, here's an appetizer. It's not like I'm not speaking on your behalf, but it's not like I'm saying I don't want to see it. I'm interested. Just give me more. Explain it more. Like, I don't understand why so quick with these things. Like, they're literally at certain points they're just references, and that's a neat take. Explain your work. Yeah. Like they tell you in school.
Exactly. All right, guys, well, let's dive into spoilers now. We're here for a spoiler talk, right? So I guess we'll kind of go through the movie somewhat chronologically. I'm sure we'll probably get scattered throughout, but so yeah, like you said, the movie opens up with this overhead shot basically showing you the aftermath. And I thought the same thing. I was like, well, obviously I know where things are going to end up, so this isn't really teasing me of anything, but it just seems a little odd and a little bit slow of an opening, just kind of showing trees, and then you see a random house on fire, then you see another house, and then there's blood everywhere, and you're like, okay, so some shit's going to go down, which I already know. Yeah, the movie starts off, and I was on board with the characters for the most part when it first started off. Whenever it introduces us to this family, when they first get to the house, I liked how, even though it really does the same thing about really painting these parents as like the shittiest parents in the world, that like as soon as they get there, the girl just kind of goes off into the woods and they don't even care. I'm like, all right, whatever. But she goes off and finds this pet cemetery, and you said Judd, that's the introduction of Judd, which was different. It was kind of a modern take. People in modern times, you see a girl, your daughter, off in a cemetery of all places, in some very decrepit. They do a good job at making John Lithgow look very like decrepit in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even just age. He just looks like he's just been like
weathered.
Weathered. So this weathered old man in some dirty clothes talking to your daughter, you'd be like, what the fuck? Yeah, come here. What's going on here? I'll pull the stinger out. You know what I mean? So
don't be rubbing anything on my daughter.
that mud. But so yeah, that's an introduction, and I like how they try to kind of make it to where Judd is kind of, like he says, that Ellie's kind of the first person that captured his heart in a long time, but they don't really dive enough into it to make you buy into that. They tell you it, they don't show it to you. And that's another thing the movie kind of does. It tends to tell you more than show you, because the first half of the movie is very explaining. It's very exposition.
Yeah. It's like I said before. The way they present Judd too, you're almost you're leery of what his intentions are, because he does. I mean, I don't know if it's a direction, if that's the director's doing that, or if that's a conscious choice by John Lithgow. But I did have this, what's his deal here, and it could just be the comparison to the original, where Fred Gwynne was just so, I don't know, endearing and neighborly. You didn't really, our first encounters with Judd are really quite different from the original two now.
Absolutely. And I also felt like in the original, they seemed to focus a lot more on Judd's friendship with Lewis and them kind of gaining a relationship, and him being that cool neighbor, like you said, you can kind of throw a beer back with at night over a fire and everything. In this movie, like I said, they try to point it more in the direction of Ellie being the one that he's kind of captivated by, and he does the things that he does to save her some pain. But like I said, they don't really dive enough into it to make it a worthy change. You know what I mean? You feel like they respect each other and they like each other, but there's not really that sense of friendship. Like all the way to the third act, whenever he gets ready to make the decision that he makes about burying Ellie in the pet cemetery, and the first thing he does is drug Judd. You know what I mean? Like, you don't feel like that friendship there. You just man out so that he doesn't try to stop me. but you know, so kind of sticking through that, you get through the middle. And how did you feel about the way that they handled Zelda? Because they pretty much, I can talk about it in the first act, because they start hammering you over the head with Zelda at the very like first 20 minutes of the movie.
Yeah, I don't like. I thought they expanded however more screen time they gave her was just for the sake of showing something creepy.
Yeah.
Again, I didn't get the fear from her. And you said it too. It was very tell don't show, where she's explaining this, and they're like the choice to actually make her kill Zelda by proxy was interesting to me. The whole dumb waiter thing,
weird, because the whole concept of the character is she's supposed to be bedridden. So how is she even getting out of bed to go to the dumb waiter, let alone fall into the damn thing? So that was, from the time they did that, I was like, all right, whatever. You know, but it felt like the movie really wanted to. It's like the directors know that Zelda is one of the standout parts of the original film, and they wanted to kind of not really even tease you with it, but they wanted to keep mentioning her. And it kind of took away from it for me, because like in my spoiler-free review, I compared Rachel's obsession with her grief and her guilt towards Zelda as Laurie Strode's obsession with the Shape in Halloween 2018. It's like, okay, we get it. Get over it. You know what I mean? Like you just keep mentioning it. Like every 15 minutes she's talking about Zelda, and she's paralyzed with fear about Zelda, and she hears Zelda in the walls, and she's thinking about Zelda. And all I kept thinking about when they were doing this is, so you've been married to this chick for how long? You've had 2 kids. One of them's at least like, what, 8 or 9 years old. And you're just now having the conversation about what happened to Zelda, when it seems like 23 out of 24 hours of the day she's scared of Zelda. And it felt like they hammered it too much. They focused on it too much. Whereas in the original film, it gets brought up because they have a conversation about death and how to tell their daughter about it. And she tells her husband, basically, she tells him about Zelda to justify her thoughts about why they should do certain things and why they shouldn't say certain things. And then later on in the film, when shit starts to go supernatural, Zelda comes back and you're like, oh, you know what I mean? It was like this surprise, and it was like this supernatural kind of enhancement of that story. Whereas this movie, it just felt like that was the only thing they gave the wife to do, was be afraid of Zelda. And it just,
and I didn't care for Zelda too much neither.
No,
I was
it was creepy the first time we got to see her, when you could see her back, and she was like, Rachel, and then she just started to see her face, and they just kind of cut away, and I was like, okay, that's enough of the introduction. That's pretty good. Now when she comes back and she's actually going to be walking around or saying whatever she's going to say, which I expected, and that never came. I kind of like the bathroom scene. Whenever she kind of they moved the sink, like the dumb waiter coming, and then she opened up the medicine cabinet, and she it was a jump scare, but it was effective when she kind of showed up and when she was falling. I liked that, but everything else, it just kind of felt like, okay, not nearly as well executed.
Something that confused the hell out of me was, Jason Clarke's character is a doctor, and he's not a man of faith. So when they're discussing what happens after you die, he says, I don't think anything happens. With that being said, everything that happens in this movie, you would think there'd be a certain point where he'd have an easier time just with just a cat alone. Like you would think he'd be able to just tell Ellie that the cat's gone. I don't, if he doesn't. I don't remember how they did it, but just the fact that he firmly said that he doesn't believe in anything in the afterlife, it took something away from me now, and I'm trying to remember what the exchange was.
It was them talking, because he was trying to talk to his daughter about death, and the wife interjected because she feels very strongly about the afterlife and what she needs to tell her daughter, and doesn't want her kind of having the same fear of the afterlife that she does because of her sister. And then she basically asked the husband, Lewis, like, so you don't believe that anything happens? And he's like, no. And I thought it was really interesting. I said in my review, I like how they introduced that. I like how they introduced that kind of conflict of, ideologies, if you will, and
but they don't pay it off.
Exactly. That's another thing that, just like the Wendigo, just like the other things that they do to change it, they dip their toe in it, and they could have realized it more throughout the film, to the point where him fearing that he's never going to have, or him, like, you know, because he believes there's no afterlife, there's no way I'm ever going to see my daughter again. There's no heaven, there's no hell, there's no limbo, there's nothing. So this is the only way I'm going to get her back, get any moments back with her. And they hammered that home a little more, but they don't. Maybe they suggested it, maybe that's what their intention was, but it doesn't really go there. You have to put all the pieces together yourself and decide to go there with it.
So to the guy in the chat, we'll probably get to it later, but just patience with the questions.
Yeah, guys, we're not going to be. I'm not ignoring the chat. We're just kind of doing all of our thoughts. We'll do the chat and the questions and the interaction and everything once we're kind of wrapping up our thoughts. But we're just kind of, there's a lot to discuss right now. So yes, patience.
So we're about at the time where Church dies, and he does hide. He does hide the death from his daughter, and again, it's the underdevelopment of relationships that kind of, this is where I kind of start getting bothered by things, where Judd takes, like, well, is his name, what's Clark's name in is it Lewis Creed? It is Lewis in this, yeah. So Lewis says he doesn't want his daughter to know, and they'll bury the cat at night, and I don't understand why it's a secret that Judd won't tell him what he's doing. Like, and another thing, why would you listen to your random neighbor that you've had a conversation with that, no, we need to bury it someplace completely different where you have to nearly kill yourself over these branches.
And you got to walk through fucking swamps and puddles. Like, I'm going back. This sucks. Like,
yeah, like there's no explanation, like why, like just a little. Just trust me, you know, this is better for your daughter. Like, there's none of that. It's just,
and that's where that friendship is missing.
Yeah,
you know I mean, like, you can going along with him in the first movie is because of their friendship and because he enjoys him as a person. This one is more like, all right, fuck it, where are we going with this?
Yeah, I'm dying to know, without any knowledge of the book or movie, what that scene or the relationship, what that feels like, because I'm telling you, I'm like, why would Lewis just take his word for it and be like, oh, okay, where are we going now? I'm just going to bury a dumb cat. Like, what? Why? There's a pet cemetery here. Maybe, you know, even to misdirect him and say, well, we can't have the normal ritual and have the kids, because, you know, when we bury pets here, it's got to be a thing. It's part of the tradition. So, because we don't have kids and a wheelbarrow, we can't do it here. We have to go bury it somewhere else. I mean, it's a dumb, stupid line, but it's a little bit easier to believe than just, no, just follow me. Okay.
Did you feel like Church was as scary or as effective?
No.
I've heard some people to argue that he is. I don't think he is either. I think he looks a little bit better, the way that he kind of.
Oh yeah, it looks all gnarly.
Yeah. He just looks, you know, the other one, he just looks a little bit sticky. But in, you know, this one, he looks a little bit more disheveled and everything. But no, I didn't think he was as creepy either. Those yellow eyes and him just kind of showing up in like random parts of the house, like that stuff is really creepy to me. And this one, he just kind of, he's a regular cat until you fuck with him, like until you're trying to brush through his sticky hair and he gets pissed off. And a regular cat would do that, you know what I mean? So I liked how he kind of became like an omen towards the end. Like every single time he showed up, something bad was about to happen. But yeah, I didn't feel like Church was as well executed either. No,
that gray cat was just scary on looks alone. Like, yeah. I mean, when he was alive, he was fucking scary.
Oh yeah, exactly. So pretty much we'll get into the big stuff now. So we get to the point where Lewis does not want Church around anymore. He doesn't, for whatever reason, he can't put him back down. So he wants to just basically let him loose into the woods. So he takes him to the end of this, you know, dead end road, throws him out, drives away. They have a nice little birthday party.
I'm sorry. Wasn't it because he slashed Ellie?
No, he found him in the crib with Gage. They didn't show what happened to Gage. They didn't show if he was actually hurt, but he was crying, and, you know, Church was just kind of sitting on top of him.
I thought Church cut Ellie too.
He did too, but that wasn't really he didn't give a shit about Ellie, I guess. But as soon as he found him in the crib, he was like, "Nope, this fucker's gone. Bye." But so he takes him to the end of this road, lets him loose, And they had this birthday party scene where Ellie is turning 9, I believe, and the whole family's there. They're having like hide and seek, and you see the truck coming. Gage is let loose. Gage is barely in this fucking movie, by the way. I'm just going to say that. Like we'll dive into it more, but you know, Gage, whenever he shows up, you're like, oh yeah, he exists again. So he starts walking towards the road. And this is where the frustrations come in with the marketing of this film, because if you watch trailer 2, they showed you apparently, which I still haven't watched the trailer.
Trailer 2 is a lot of third act shit too, for the record. A lot of third act shit.
Awesome. So the trailer shows you that they pull this little switcheroo, and instead of Gage dying, Ellie dies. And if you are a fan of the book, if you're a fan of the original movie, this film specifically manipulates you with this scene. Like everything that they do in this death scene with the truck is designed to misdirect fans that know the story, which begs the question of why the fuck would you then ruin it in your marketing? But so you have Gage running towards the road. You have the class, you know, Lewis, Gage, and he's running towards him. And he finally, like, right when it's about to happen, you're like, oh, he grabs him, pulls him out of the road real quick. The truck slides. And then you get a slow motion CGI effect of this trailer. And Ellie's like, and, you know, then they find her laying down in the grass, which to me was not a tenth of as effective as it was in the 1989 film. Maybe it's because it's practical, but I think it's the speed, because that scene is so fast in 1989. Yes. Like when he runs into the road and you just see the truck, like it's just coming right at him. You're like, oh, like there's no time to save him. Yeah. And just feel that whole slow motion thing about it's kind of just floating toward, and she's like, you know, it takes the effect out of it. Like, you know, she's going to die, but is that something about the speed of that scene in 1989?
It's the polar opposite of the original too. The polar opposite. You're right behind Gage. You got this bird's eye view of shit about to go down. And in the remake last night, they have a fucking a helicopter angle. Like you get this big, you're far away from it, and it's just like, what? Why are you doing that? You take all the dramatics away from it being so far away, and the one scene you'd want them to perfect, and something that was done 30 years ago practically with a big giant fucking mirror does it way better. It's just really, and why CGI? Just like
yep. Yeah, so I'm glad we agree on that. I was like, wow, that's not nearly. Like, I really don't feel this death at all. When every time Gage dies, I'm like, oh, there it is. So it's So this is where the movie diverts and basically goes completely different. Like everything, pretty much for the most part, past this scene, with the exception of some of the interaction with Judd and Lewis, is a completely different movie from here on out. So we have Ellie, who has died. Gage is still alive, and you know they had the funeral scene. Again, I really miss, this is where I really start to miss the emotion. This is where I really start to fall out of love with Jason Clarke, because I thought he was really good in the first half as just being the regular guy. But whenever the movie really needed him to be grief-stricken and really needed him to be emotional, I feel like he drops the ball a lot, because even in the funeral scene, you get a tear. That's it. You know what I mean? Yeah, go ahead.
I felt like he, with his eyes at the very least, he was doing some work. I mean, I'll give you that. He wasn't too grief stricken, but like I bought it, at least, that there was something going on with his eyes, that you know he was stressed, or you know there was a lot going on behind those eyes. But I could see it both ways, I guess. Yeah, I appreciated his performance, actually.
Yeah, well, to be honest, too, I think you have a lot of criticisms towards Dale Midkiff and some of the other casting too, and I'm a defender of his. I actually think that he's terrific in that movie, so that's probably where that little bit of gap is too. But yeah, that we're, you know, again, comparing it to the original, when you get that funeral scene and the family is just everybody, grandparents, aunts, uncles, everybody is just demolished, and then you get the fight between the grandparent and the father and everything. It just, there's so much emotion in just that scene, and then you get to this, it's a tear. The typical shot of the grave being lowered from a bird's eye view, and then a tear. I'm like, okay, whatever. So you move on, and the wife Rachel takes Gage and goes to her grandparents' house. And now you know where this is going to be, where he's going to decide to go take her to the pet cemetery. So he goes and immediately has this conversation with Judd. Judd already knows what's going on in his head. He's like, look, if you're thinking about doing this, I'm telling you, you can't. And they never dive into why he knows. They hint at it later on, which we'll get into when we get into the real, like the quick third act stuff. But, you know, he's a little bit emotional about what happened because, again, they're trying to make it to where Ellie is really the one that he has a tie with and has a lot of affection towards, and now she's dead. But he drugs Judd, goes, pulls his daughter out of the grave, which, again, to keep comparing to the original, that is the one scene in the original that now as a father really makes me emotional. When he pulls, when he opens up Gage's casket, and then you just see him and he's just
he just holds the body for a couple of seconds.
Just sitting there like this. Like, that really gets me. And this doesn't really have anything like that. He just, you know, he's just, okay. And he goes through the woods and he buries her. And then from here on out, it's completely different. This is where it has no pretty much connection to the original film and much of the novel, with the exception of the attack on Judd. And you get to where she finally comes back, and like you said, she talks, and you're like, oh, you know, or maybe that was off air when you said that, but, you know, as soon as she comes back, and this is where I was really curious on where a lot of the changes were going to go, and I was really curious on how much this change that they made from changing it to Gage, from Gage to Ellie, was going to impact this film for better or worse. And this is where it starts to get really interesting. This is where I kind of sit up in my seat like, okay, this is where this movie's going to either make or break it, because she's talking. Now, Gage was a baby, you know, Gage, he talked, he had a couple of catchphrases and everything in there. Like, you know, babies have those little phrases that they can say, and it was twisted in a sinister way, but Ellie's old enough to know what happened to her.
Yeah, she asks, "Am I dead? You know, where am I?"
And it was really eerie when she first came back, because she comes back, she's got one eye that's kind of fucked up from getting hit.
She's got the Voorhees.
Yeah, exactly. She's got the Bill Skarsgård going on. So she got the one eye, and then, you know, she's sitting in the bath, and he's kind of cleaning off all the mud and everything, and he's trying to comb her hair, and it's pulling out because she's dead.
Stitches
and she's got the stitches and everything, and she just kind of turns around, she's like, what's wrong?
Nothing. Everything's fine.
And my mind is rolling at this point, because I'm like, how is he going to pull this off? Like, how is he explain this to the wife? How is he planning on this actually kind of transpiring? And it was interesting for that amount of time alone, because immediately after, as soon as he wakes up, she's evil.
Yeah, dude, the potential. Like, even if you like, because it's not like it's a 3-hour movie we're talking about. They could have taken a good 20 minutes with the struggles and you know, having to deal with my pet zombie daughter. And like you know, trying to bring her back to school, or like, you know, just some of the, you know, it was a really missed opportunity.
Huge missed opportunity. Yeah. Because as soon as that scene happened, I was like, wow, we're going to get some really interesting stuff with her and Lewis, and it's going to be him, you know, like I assume it's probably going to be her asking a lot of questions and getting frustrated with him not answering them, and him trying to beat around the bush. And, you know, this is from the point now until the credits where the movie just starts, all right, let's go. And like I said, he wakes up and immediately she's evil. She's breaking shit. She put her fucking grave dress back on, and
she dances.
She's dancing around and everything. So she's kind of like showing the shade of who she used to be, but she's just evil immediately. She didn't seem evil at all when she first came home. She seemed normal, but she
had to sleep on it, Cody.
Yeah, exactly. So even when she's in bed and she's like, "Don't leave me," and he stays there, and she asks questions, and, you know, and she just sits there. And her eyes, she like never blinks. And I thought they were going to do something weird where like he falls asleep and she just sits there like this all night and doesn't really, you know, enhancing that zombie thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, this is really interesting. And they just skip over it. And immediately they wake up. She's breaking shit. She's evil. Judd shows up. Judd knows what happens. He runs back to his house because he's scared, and then he sees her in the window. He gets his gun. And this is where like everything seems crammed into 15 minutes. She wakes up. She's evil. She kills Judd. And it's like,
there's a line that Judd said that I felt like, oh, she's gonna kill him out of spite. I think he said something like, "You shouldn't have done this," or something like that.
What he says is, because he kind of gets the hint of what's going on, because he sees the dirt on his fingers when he's holding the door, and he's like, "If you've done something, it's not too late."
Oh yeah, it's not too late to undo it.
And that was a good line. And I'm with when I heard that, I was like, "Oh, she's gonna hear that shit, and she's gonna take him out because kill her." And that was good. But again, no time to marinate in it. Like, he literally runs next door and she's already in the fucking house. And it's like, what? And I liked how they, and again, this kind of plays into, if you're pandering to the fans, why are you marketing this like shit? They had this whole thing about kind of going through the motions of Judd knowing that she's in the house. and he's got his gun, and he walks upstairs, and they have this great camera angle underneath the bed at his heel. And you're like, oh, here it comes, here it comes. And then he sees it and he kicks the fucking bed across the room and there's nobody there. And you're like, you got me, movie. Because everybody knows that's, the big scene with Judd in the original when he gets his Achilles heel cut. So,
and no Chelsea smile. Like, what the fuck, man? That was gruesome too.
Yeah, exactly. And then, so he goes downstairs thinking everything's okay. Church, the death omen shows up for a second and then he gets cut anyway. And they do a really interesting thing to where Ellie comes down the stairs and she starts chastising him about what he did to his wife, which to me, I'd have to see the scene again. To me, it hinted like he buried his wife in the pet cemetery and had to kill her. Because she was like hinting towards it like, you did this to your wife.
I perceive that as whatever happened to her was because of Judd. And then she was his wife for a little bit.
Possible. I don't know. Like I said, I have to watch the scene again. I don't know because he said she was sick and he kind of left it there. So I don't know if he accidentally killed her. Like, again, they don't really dive into it. They don't dive into it enough to really make it a big, like, holy crap moment, like a big thing with his character.
Yeah, but because Judge says something like you're not her, you're not real or something to that effect. Yeah.
Yeah, he said, "Yeah, you're not real," and she pulls the mask up and she turns into the wife, and it's really cool and kind of creepy how they did that. And then the dialogue to me, it made me beg questions because it seemed like she was saying like we're going to punish you and everything like that for what you did to her. And to me, I was trying to connect the dots about how he knew that things were going to be brought back and how he kind of was a little bit afraid of it, and it made me think that maybe he buried his wife there and had this whole thing happen, and he had to end up killing his wife, but I might be reaching. I don't know.
And another thing, why not give us 5 minutes of what Judd was like with his ex-wife? Like, make me care
in the original film.
Right. Like we heard about the dude who had to set his house on fire because of his son. Do the same thing with Judd and his wife. Let me know why it torments him so much.
Yeah, and that would have been a really cool little interesting twist in the character. And again, just little tiny things that could have made it so much better.
Which in the book, Judd's wife is alive. She's just not around.
Oh, okay.
So,
but yeah, that again, like I might be reaching. Maybe they intended that. Maybe I heard it wrong, and my mind was racing, trying to grasp on the explanation while the movie was rushing to the credits. I don't know, so nonetheless. Now, how did you feel about the whole scene about Judd's death? Like, do you feel like it was as effective or anything? Obviously, it's not as
nowhere near as effective.
Yeah,
and again, like Judd is probably like I call him the glue of the original. He's kind of responsible for everything.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really feel anything. The loss of the character didn't matter to me. The death. I mean, they went a little bit harder with his like ankle totally splitting. That was a really gruesome thing. But I mean, other than that, I don't want to say I didn't care, but it was just like, all right, now what?
And you didn't really, I'm with you. So and then again, if it seems like we're going through the third act very quick, it's because the movie does.
We're in real time here.
Yeah, Judd dies, and then immediately after that, pretty much, did you catch where you got Rachel is on the road trying to get a hold of Lewis? Did you catch where they had the road sign that said
Dairy? Yeah,
that was pretty cool. So she's on the way home. She gets home, and Lewis is like, "Oh shit!" So she's there, and then she's like, hey, before you see the daughter, somebody explain something real quick. Like, so she gets home with Gage, and very quickly, like she's like hugging him, like I thought something was wrong, and he's trying to explain himself quickly, like, hey, something happened, some shit's gone down, and the daughter just kind of shows up, and again, it felt like a kind of a missed opportunity for the reaction of the wife. Like she was upset, but like it didn't feel like a genuine reaction that a parent would have seeing their kid alive again. And it's not like she was all fucked up and had brains hanging out and everything. She looked mostly normal at this point. Yeah. So she shows up and, Gage says elephant or something like that. And then she's like, the big and terrible. And like kind of walks in and the mom's like, holds that face while she goes to hug her. And I guess,
her daughter.
Yeah. And she's like, you want to hug your daughter? And she's like, just kind of takes the kid upstairs. And this is the point where, again, I guess Ellie's pissed off because she's like, she doesn't want me here. It's okay. I don't want her here either. And
bitches, man, bitches.
And within 2 minutes, she's trying to stab fucking Ellie to death, or she's trying to stab Rachel to death. Like he runs across the street to get Judd really quick in the midst of all this chaos, the worst possible time to leave your house. And he's like,
by the way, I brought your daughter back from the dead. I'll be right back.
Yeah, exactly. And he runs across the street, finds the dead body. Oh shit, she's fucking crazy. Runs back to his house, and she's trying to take the baby. And she basically, throws Gage out the window. He catches her, and then she starts getting stabbed to death. And you get enough time for him to lock Gage into the car, say, "Don't open the door for anybody." He runs upstairs really quick. She's already pretty much dead, and she gets enough time to say, "Don't bury me in that place."
Yeah.
And then Ellie runs off to the pet cemetery for some reason. So then she has to run over. He has to run to the pet cemetery to try to stop her. They have this, little classic, protagonist and villain thing where they're like circling each other and talking.
Wait. Okay, keep going. If I'm wrong, I'll ask it.
What was it?
Doesn't Ellie drag the mom to the pet cemetery, or is it? Do I have the people wrong?
Oh, that's right. She knocks him out. Whenever he sees the mom, she says, "Don't bury me there." She knocks him out, and then she drags the mom to the pet. Yeah, that's what it is. Okay, and then he comes to, realizes that the kid is still in the fucking car. He's asleep. He's like, "All right, he's good." And then he runs to the pet cemetery, and then they have the whole circling thing. And this is where I thought were going to get really interesting, because they fight it out. And, in the original film, it was disturbing whenever he had to finally put Gage back down again, because he was fucked up pretty good, but he had to like hold him and, slowly put the needle in, and he reacts like he's still a baby, like,
no fair.
Yeah, no fair, and walks away. And it's really gut wrenching. Even though he's an evil little shit that just murdered everybody, you're still like, oh, man. But this one, he's pissed, like he's beating the shit out of her. And she does that, that low rent Jacob's Ladder thing where she's like, So it's and then she pauses for a second. She's like, "Hey, Daddy, we can be back together again." And he raises the shovel and gets fucking stabbed through his chest. And you're like, "Oh!" And immediately I saw where everything was going. So zombie mom is back, and then you immediately cut back to the opening shot, the pan shot of all the chaos, and you're like, "Oh, this is what actually happened." Then I guess. And then zombie family comes to greet Gage and the window of the car, and he's like, and then the movie ends. And I'm like, okay, cool. And again, if it seems like we were kind of going through all the major shit really quickly, it's because the movie does. And that's one of my biggest things with the movie. Like, literally, the girl comes back to life. Within 5 minutes, she's killing Judd. Within 5 minutes, she's killing the mother. Within 5 minutes, Lewis is dead. And then the movie ends. Yeah. And it's like, this is the part of the movie that you have built up all this anticipation for. Like, you've gone so far out of your way to change the most integral part of this story, which some would argue is not a big change. I would argue it's a monumental change, changing from Gage to Ellie.
Yeah.
And when the movie has the opportunity to utilize that change to become something different, it skates through it all and gets to the credits. And it's like, what the fuck was the point then?
Yeah, there's like 3 or 4 of those where it's like, all right, this is a neat idea. Let's see where you go with. Oh no, you're done already. Okay, never mind. That was a neat idea, and that's all it's going to be. The daughter talking was such a, I don't know what I would want from it going further, but just to see it going further and not have her go evil right away, have her be welcomed back to the family by the mother. And, the mom's kind of freaked out by it, but it's my daughter. I love her so much.
And have that sinister edge to her start to slowly come out.
Yeah.
They say, or, if they start to get frustrated with, like, when he screams at her, when she starts breaking stuff, like little stuff like that starts to set her off. Like, I'm with you. Go ahead.
Right. And again, going back to the original, all of these things, like you got the regret that he has, and Judd cries and says he's sorry for introducing him. And, every time that Lewis has to end up undoing something, you get the pain that he's going through, that, he fucked up. He was just trying to make things better, and he didn't want to feel pain anymore. And like, none of that. I mean, we're told that here, but there's no there's no emotion to anything. It's just here's a thing, and here's another thing, and here's another thing. Like, you don't really get to feel for any of it.
Mm-hmm. No mention of Zelda. We talked about Zelda, Captain D, but we'll get more into the characters. But yeah, I'm with you. The emotion is the biggest thing missing from the movie, because that's what. And again, it feels like they just missed what the point was. Like they said, "Oh, scary horror movie shit. You know, let's have creepy imagery. Let's have weird sounds. Let's have something in the dark. Let's have Zelda creaking through the fucking ceiling. Let's have." You know, Ellie go full, you know, Jason Voorhees in 15 minutes in the last act. It's like that's never what was scary about Pet Sematary. Pet Sematary was never scary because Gage killed people. Pet Sematary was scary because of how uncomfortably close to home that concept is.
Yeah.
How uncomfortable that level of emotion is, and how real the decisions that those characters make are. As much as you would say, I would never do that. If your fucking kid just got hit, you knew there was a way that he would come back, and there was a slight chance it might not work out, but there might be a chance it would. Every single parent on earth would at least consider it.
Yeah.
And it's that uncomfortable close to home aspect, and that ickiness, that uncomfortableness about that concept of death and grief that the movie just hammers home, that this movie just kind of skates past for horror movie shit. And it's like, that's not what you're supposed to be focusing on. I appreciate the different take, but you're missing the point.
Yeah, and they bring up the Wendigo, and that's it. Like, a picture in a book, a couple of things on trees, and you know, again, all right, that's neat that you brought it up, but give me a little bit more. Yeah,
and I don't know how strong of a presence the Wendigo has in the novel. I know that it's.
I think they do have a fair presence in the novel.
Yeah, so you could, again, there's elements that they could have dove into, like the Wendigo actually being some kind of a creature out there that's making all this happen, and he's trying to create this zombie family to kind of get his power out there, like something. There's supernatural stuff that they dip their toe into. That there's concepts that they dip their toe into, where it's like, okay, even though you fucked up some of this stuff, if you had dove into this stuff more and fleshed out that third act more with some of this different stuff, I could have forgiven this a little bit more, and I could have appreciated it for all these different elements that you're giving me. But because you just kind of dipped your toe into it and you just kind of went the safe generic route, I'm going to call it safe and generic. And that's how the movie feels to me. They go for a more grounded aspect and a more grounded take.
Yeah,
they kind of shave the corners of the campiness and shave the corners of the weirdness of the 1989 movie off, and it kind of takes what's interesting of the movie away from it, and just
takes the charm away from it.
Yeah, it takes the charm away from it. And it's like, okay, if you're going to go grounded, that's cool, but you got to put more into it. If you're going to go this different direction, you got to make sure it's just as strong in your grounded take, but you kind of shaved off what makes that movie, and you kind of shaved off what makes that story interesting. Kind of diving into that, like I mentioned it. Pascal and Gage might as well not even be in this fucking movie. Like Pascal, I had somebody comment like, "Why did they change him to black just to kill him and not even put him in the movie?" I was like, "Don't go there."
Dude, when he first came on screen, I'm like, "Is that the I'm the captain now guy?" I could have swore it was the guy from Captain Phillips.
Yeah. So Pascal shows up, and again, they tried to take away some of the campiness of the character from the 1989 movie. They tried to make it a little bit more of a spiritual thing and not so much like a guy that you actually have conversations with, because I guess in the grounded take, they didn't see how the logic would fit if Lewis was having full-on conversations with Pascal and walking through the woods and everything and still holding on to there's no afterlife shit.
And they kind of take away from that scene too, like right off the bat when Pascal visits him for the first time in his house and he goes to the doorway, you could clearly see that he's like in a dreamscape, because it's not the doorway, it's not his house. In the original, he
actually walks there.
You see him walking there, so you're like, did he actually go there? And the fact that his feet are muddy, you're like, oh, it wasn't a dream. Where this one, they kind of robbed that experience a bit, but.
I can see that. Yeah, I think it was more of a visual thing that I liked about it. When they has the door, I was kind of like, "Oh, okay, cool, that's interesting."
Oh yeah, absolutely. The cinematography is something to make note of too.
Yeah, for sure. And then Gage, and this was something that I spoke on in my spoiler-free review.
Who?
Yeah, exactly. It was very hard to talk spoiler-free about some of the issues, and basically what I was trying to say was that, like, if you're going to shift focus to this character, which they do. They're shifting focus to Ellie. They give Ellie more screen time. They give her a little bit more stuff to chew on when she's still alive. They put a little bit more focus on her interactions with everybody, which is cool. But they completely forget about Gage.
Yeah.
Like Gage literally shows up, twice, maybe 3 times in the first hour of this film. And then the entire last act of the movie, he's just there to say Pascal and to look in the corner of the room like you see something, and then to be in the car. And it's like, dude, Gage is a horror icon. You can't switch it to Ellie and then forget about Gage. You have to put Gage into the position that Ellie was in the previous movie to a degree, or you have to put Gage into some serious danger. Now that he's alive, you have this baby that is now in the situation where there's this murderous zombie running around who he thinks is his sister. They had so much opportunity to put him in peril to make us really care. Like, oh my God, Gage is going to die. You know what I mean? Like something. And they don't do anything with him. They put him in a fucking car and they lock the door.
Yeah. And the only reason you really, I mean, not the only reason, but the big reason that you're kind of freaked out about Gage nearly getting hit by the truck is because he's a baby. Like, other than that, like it's you don't have much invested in that character.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, but to me, I just kept wondering through the. I'm like, where's Gage at? Like, there's even multiple times in the movie where they kind of focus on things, and as a parent, you're like, is anybody watching that fucking kid? Like, where the hell is he at? Like, he just somewhere. You know what I mean? Yeah, he's good. But
Which if they're gonna take again, comparing to the original, if they're gonna take the role of what Ellie was in the original and put it on Gage, Ellie had nightmares about Pascal and
things happening. She was
right,
clairvoyant. She had the shining.
Right. There was a lot more to both Pascal. Well, Pascal and what would be Gage, but both of them are kind of really cut short in this movie. Pascal is all but gone by the third act, and apparently that's part of the book too. He's not that big a deal in the book, but
yeah, and again, going more novel accurate, I guess. But to me, then he might be a small part of the book that's used effectively, but in this movie, he's a small part of the movie that's not really used effectively, in my opinion. He's there for kind of a familiar story beat. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, that's the guy that has his brain showing, but then they don't really, even the voice, you know what I mean? There was something sinister about his voice, even though he's a friendly ghost, a man's heart is stony. Like stuff like that is just the way that they had the reverb and everything. This is just, it's watered down.
Do you remember if Judd says the line about the ground being sour?
No. Pascal tells it to Lewis, and then you get the line in the trailer where he's like, yeah, they stopped using that Micmac burial ground because the ground is bad. And Lewis is like, the ground is sour. He's like, yeah.
Because that was a big moment in the original too. Like that's what further told Lewis that, listen, that something's up here. Like, wait, I heard that in a dream.
Exactly. And that was the scene that I was on before I started this live stream, because I was kind of watching the original while I was eating lunch, is that where he says the man's heart is stonier, and then they just got back in the Pet Sematary and he's like, a man's heart is stonier, Lewis, and he's like,
yeah. Wait, what did you just say?
You're right. So and that's where they kind of, they take the time to really hammer into us that he does not believe in the afterlife at all. He believes in science, and then little things like that would contradict his worldview to kind of make him more of an interesting character and take him on this little mental journey and a little bit of mania
and have it fuck with him. Yeah.
Exactly. So
I'm a man of science, and this is everything against what I've been taught. Yeah, like have him like really be amazed and freaked out by it. They just missed a lot of missed opportunities. That's the theme of this movie.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of missed opportunities. I agree. Well, was I missing anything? Is there anything else that you want to dive into before we start going to the chat?
I don't think so. I really don't. It like the relationships are kind of shitty. What did anything stick out about? Because I'm trying to think if there was anything that stuck out that wasn't. All right, so the maid, the one who hangs herself, not in this movie.
No better, no worse.
It'll pass.
Yeah.
So she's completely gone. I'm trying to remember like what was taken out and what was added in. I don't think there were characters added in?
No. The
And
parents, the grandparents, everything with them was taken out basically.
The turmoil's not there. He doesn't hate his in-laws, which is
yeah. You don't even really know what the in-laws are. They're just the people at the party and the people at the funeral. You're like, they're old. I guess they're her parents.
right.
But yeah, they're taking out all the turmoil with that. All the phone calls from mom and dad's house. Like she goes there and then immediately comes back.
Yeah.
The maid and that whole kind of reinforcement of death and acceptance and everything is kind of out there. And yeah, they take a lot out, and all they really add in is a mention of the Wendigo and the kids with the drums.
Which
unless I'm missing something, I'm with you. There's a lot taken out, and I don't know. It might even be the same runtime, but it feels like
that would be nuts.
All the explaining shit and all of the exposition, all the rules of the Pet Sematary that they have to kind of get through in this movie before things start to go nuts. It feels like it moved at a better clip in the first movie while having a lot more going on, where this movie felt like it really kind of slowed down and took its time with it just to rush through all the crazy stuff.
Yeah, even if it was like slower paced or whatever, and you know me, I'm not a big fan of slower paced movies. I felt the original more, even if it was stuff that wasn't really going on. Like I didn't really feel anything about this movie. It was just like, all right, yeah, family. It's a family because they're telling me it's a family, and now there's one of them's dead. Now another one's dead, and all right, so we just keep moving along.
Yeah.
And there's no real feeling, no emotion to it.
Do you feel like maybe I've only seen Pet Sematary 2 once, and I was not a fan. And I don't remember a whole lot about it other than the fact that I was not a fan. But I know that there's more campy stuff about humans kind of being zombies. Like they have the whole thing with
the father or the stepfather.
Yeah, the stepfather, whatever. Do you feel like maybe, and obviously they didn't go the campy, goofy route, but do you feel like maybe the directors and the writers of this movie was a fan of both and kind of wanted to put elements of both in this one? And that's how you get the whole zombie family thing towards the end. And
I hope not, because even then they failed. Because all right, you want the zombie relative thing, air it out. Just let it breathe. Let us get a feel for it. It just felt like somebody read the Cliff's notes from either the book or the original and said, all right, we could do this. We could do this. Under 90 minutes? Okay. What was that?
Somebody in the chat said Clancy Brown. I said, thank you.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I kind of thought that. I was like, they're taking some elements of what they tried to explore in 2 and failed, and try to maybe do that in this one. Pet Sematary 2 is better. Better than what? Better than this or better than the original? You got to clarify that statement. All right. So we've pretty much dove into all of our thoughts. Now we're going to take some time for the chat. So you guys go ahead. You could put questions or you can give suggestions on stuff you want to talk about regarding Pet Sematary, please. Not just like a general Q&A about the original movie, about the new movie, about I guess the talk of maybe a prequel where they go back. I don't know if that was just somebody talking or what.
Lewis Prevost asks, does Zelda at least look scarier?
No.
I don't think so at all.
No, I don't even think it's close. Like they slowly kind of get there, and the first time they show her where her back is a little contorted and she turns around and she says Rachel, but you don't get to see very much of her. But no, that the way Zelda looks in the original is something that like haunts dreams forever. Like I've said it numerous times that Zelda and the Tim Curry version of Pennywise is the only 2 characters in horror movies that ever genuinely scared the shit out of me.
Oh, Cody, this is something that we had a big circle on. How did you feel about the music?
What music?
Thank you. That's exactly our point.
I didn't really think about it too much in the movie until I put the original 1989 movie back on. And within the opening scene, I'm like, wow, this music is really getting me. And I don't remember any of that in the making.
Even the piano stuff is
the piano
sad and dreary.
Yeah, like that stuff. Yeah,
it's not there. It's just not there.
Yeah. Let's see. Wow, thanks for spoiling this movie for me. Thanks for reading the title. It was really obvious that Zelda was played by a guy in the original. I don't think it was.
I don't think it was
until somebody told me, actually. When you hear that and you find out, it's easy to look and you're like, oh yeah, but it's because the structure of a man's body adds to how contorted that character is.
Yeah.
Let's see.
My biggest flaw with this movie is how much bigger the movie tries to make some moments. Ellie's death and Zelda's death mainly. Sometimes simpler is better.
Bravo.
Yeah, no, like the Zelda thing. To kind of double down and rehash on it. The death scene, like I don't know why make that the death scene so that you make her afraid of the dumb waiter thing. Like is like why do that?
Yeah, I don't know. It is that was the logic thing that I had because the whole point of that character is she can't move. She's bedridden. Her spine's fucked up. So whether the dumbwaiter works or not, sending her food up for her to retrieve herself doesn't make any sense to me. So, whoa, I just got blurry as hell. Hello. Yeah, that didn't. I wasn't really on board with that from the beginning, but I was like, okay, well, at least if they do some scary shit with her, then I can forgive the dumbwaiter thing. But yeah, I thought it was kind of dumb. And I was like, wait. And even the way that they showed the flashback didn't make a whole lot of sense to me, too, because they show the dumbwaiter crash at the bottom and then her body just kind of falls on top of it. And I'm like, well, wouldn't the physics of that be that when she was reaching in, the dumbwaiter broke and she fell with the dumbwaiter?
Yeah.
The fucking thing was there and she looked down to see what it was and then fell on top of it. Like, I don't understand what they were going for with that, but it was
I think it was a ham-fisted way to get a jump scare in there, honestly.
Exactly. That was the other flaw that I had was that, the jump scares, even though these aren't like really egregious jump scares, like the shit that we see like in January, February horror movies where they close the fridge and nothing's there or something like that. Like, it was true jump scares, but again, it just feels like missing the point of Pet Sematary. There was never jump scares that made that movie scary. It was everything going on with the characters that made it scary. So kind of reverting back to the Hollywood easy jump scare thing was just kind of like, oh, okay, whatever. Let's see. Lord Moon. Is this the guy that kept asking the same question?
Yeah.
What was the meaning of the father seeing himself in the woods before burying his son in the original movie? I don't fucking know. A weird visual.
Yeah, it was just a hallucination.
It was things trying to stop him. Like, because there was trees falling and there was all kinds of stuff trying to stop him from burying his son. Because in the movie, the universe is trying, or the woods or whatever is trying to stop that from happening. Where in this one, the woods is kind of the thing tantalizing everybody. So that's it. It's just trying to scare him away. A Terminator question. Not going to answer that. We're talking about Pet Sematary, bro. But let's see. A remake of Christine and Cujo. This is an interesting question. So Stephen King, I'll answer Stephen King questions as well. But I asked this at the end of my spoiler-free review. Now that we've got it and we've got Pet Sematary, what is the Stephen King story that you want to see next? Like a remake or a readaptation.
We're getting that Shining prequel later this year, right?
Sequel.
Is it a sequel? Okay.
Yeah.
Steve, Salem's Lot. You know what? Make vampires fucking scary again.
And
I think Salem's Lot would be the window scene still creeps me the fuck out.
I'd be interested in that because I watched Salem's Lot for the first time. It was actually the night of the voting was going on between Trump and Clinton. So while that was going on, I was watching fucking Salem's Lot. But I watched it for the first time that night, and I was not prepared for how long that movie was. So I put it on. I was like, oh, I'll check out.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, holy fuck, this was an investment. So I need to watch it again, but I didn't really get hooked by it too much. So I would be curious to see a modern tale of that. But yeah, I want to see a new Christine. Because I love the John Carpenter one, but I really want to see him take it like to modern, like, you know what I mean? Because the original is in the late 70s, even though it feels like an 80s movie, and you have the 50s element of the Plymouth Fury. I want to see like a 2020 teenager that has to get this shitty 58 Plymouth Fury.
Oh, really? Okay.
Something like that, and kind of bring that concept to where he starts to look like a little like somebody from the Greaser days or something like that in modern time, like something, a new twist on it. But I want to see that. That's
interesting. I thought you were going to go the way of the Child's Play remake and have it be, like the fucking the navigation and shit starts going crazy. Yeah,
possibly. I don't know. I think it's hard it would be impossible to take the Fury out of that, just to look at that car and have it be a different model or a different make or anything like that. But But I just think there'd be a lot to do with a modern teenager getting stuck in that situation. That would be cool.
I didn't say Salem's Lot was this platinum grade film. It does kind of suck. That's why even more reason I'd like to see it remade.
Exactly.
The name of the Shining thing is Dr. Sleep. Thank you, Sad Man. Silver Bullet, that'd be a good one too.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I really like Silver Bullet a lot. That was another one that I got introduced to really late, like just a couple years ago. And I was like, damn, I would have loved this growing up watching this.
I'm going to help you out here. Ken says, I'm surprised you can bitch about this remake, but love the remake of Friday the 13th. I mean, I'm with you here. It's not really the same argument. That Friday the 13th, it's the original's not much to talk about. With Pet Sematary, there's you know what, Cody, if you'd like to go ahead and
motherfucker. I'm assuming with the wink that's just a friendly jab, so I'm gonna assume that if it's a troll, then I'd have a different response. But again, like I've had the same argument with everybody saying, like, how could you not like Us, but you'll defend movies like Nightmare on Elm Street, Dream Warrior? I'm like, totally different playing fields, totally different movies. I enjoy the Friday the 13th remake because of how balls deep they go into making Jason a freight train and the kills and how ridiculous the characters are and stuff like that. This is a movie that hits me emotionally and hits me, you know, spiritually and hits me with all these things that kind of really dig into my heart and soul. That's not Friday the 13th. You know what I mean? Totally different thing. So if it's not hitting all those emotional beats that the original film, or those of us that read the novel, if it's not hitting that, that's a failure of the remake for different reasons than people bitch about the Friday the 13th remake because they don't like the characters and because Jason never ran and all this other bullshit that I hear that people don't like about that one. So it's totally different.
Pet Sematary is emotional. There's a lot to it, and it kind of gets stripped of that. Friday the 13th is a slasher movie, and the remake is a slasher movie. That's not a fair it's not a fair assessment there. Yeah. And I'm somebody who prefers the original over the Friday the 13th remake. So
moving on. Let me see. Christine would be cool. As I mentioned before, if we could see more in the relationship with Arnie and his girlfriend, since in the original they didn't explain at all how they got together. And yeah, see, that's one of the things I always say if you're going to remake a movie, especially if it's beloved, which also goes back to what CP was saying about why he would like Salem's Lot to be remade, because it's not exactly a gem. If you're going to remake a movie that's beloved, you have to go in new directions. And I even say that in my review. Like, even though I don't really think the directions that they went in added anything to this movie, and it certainly took away a lot, I do commend them for trying. And I do commend them for going in a bold direction, because I definitely don't want somebody to take a movie that I think is damn near perfect, like Pet Sematary, and try to do that all over again. Just do it in 2019, because that never turns out very well. So yeah, that's one of those things where Christine, there's certain aspects of the book, like the guy that he buys the car from and his brother and the relationship there and what the brother did and the relationship between Arnie and his girlfriend. There's things that the movie skates past in the John Carpenter film that a new film could focus on those a little bit more and be different. So that's one of the things that I always say. If you're going to do a remake like this Child's Play remake, go in a bold new direction, because that 1988 Child's Play already exists. Don't give me that shit again.
Another thing, people don't realize that Pet Sematary really didn't do too well at the box office. So this is kind of they were trying to ride the heels of it. And
absolutely. Absolutely, yeah. It's that 80s nostalgia. It's that remake nostalgia. And now with it being such a monstrous success, now King is in, and whenever it was successful, we all said it. We're like, okay, studios are going to be grabbing whatever property they can get a hold of, or they're going to be dusting off the rights to whatever ones they already own, and figuring out what the hell they're going to do.
I tell you what, if Universal were smart, and they're probably not, with all this Stranger Things, Summer of '84, this whole 80s kids Goonies type feel, I don't understand why Monster Squad isn't getting a remake. Because I
don't know.
Have you seen Monster Squad?
I've seen it once.
Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of a movie that there's definitely something to be tapped into there. It's hard to say. It feels like a lot of studio heads and a lot of people in the suits don't really know how to connect the dots with that kind of stuff as
Ain't
much.
that the truth? Yeah.
Where you have the writers and the directors, they're like, please let me do Monster Squad. Like, I have 3 scripts right here. Pick which one you like best. Yeah, that would be interesting. Easy 2184. Who was better, Fred Gwynne or John Lithgow? John Lithgow is a better actor than Fred Gwynne. Fred Gwynne wipes the floor with John Lithgow's version of Judd.
Oh yeah, as a career, it's John Lithgow. Performances in Pet Sematary, it's not close. It's Fred Gwynne.
It's not
Fred Gwynne.
Yeah. Fred Gwynne is the heart and soul of the movie, really. Like you said, he's the glue. And
there's even the way he delivers these things, like when he's telling you these tales, that if it were just Fred Gwynne telling you the story about how his dog, like just that that felt so bigger, like there was so much drama and the word of the day, emotion. Like you really, when he was just talking, you really respected what was happening. John Lithgow was just just telling you stuff that was going on.
And it might sound trivial too, but I really miss that accent.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like we've seen John Lithgow do accents before. So I was kind of, it was strange to me when I heard the trailer and I was like, why is he just talking like John Lithgow? You know what I mean? And nobody in this movie talks like they're from New England. Like they're from Boston. And I don't necessarily want to follow around two people, like whatever they say in Ted, Pepperidge Farms. I don't necessarily want to have that be caked in too much, but everybody in this movie talks like they're from the Midwest, the South. Like nobody talks like they're born and raised in New England. And that accent is a big piece of that character. And even like because they took the maid out, like the maid is a big piece of the original movie too, with that accent and the way that they speak. And it's just it's another small little element that some people probably could care less about, but as a fanatic of the original film, you watch it and you're kind of like, oh, I miss that. I need that.
That's a good point, Lori. The main accent was a character in the original movie.
Yep.
They should remake missed opportunities, not classics. Yeah, that's a fair point.
That's a very fair point. I do think that there is opportunity to remake classics, but you have to have enough time of separation for one, and two, you have to have a reason to remake it. Here's a good example. For a long time, the #1 movie that I always said to never remake was Back to the Future. It's not my #1 movie of all time. It's certainly like in top 10, 15, but that's the one movie where I'm like, that movie is literally perfect. There's nothing you can do to change it to make anything better. Don't even try. Don't even bother. But then my buddy Sean Chandler talked to me one time. He did a video on it eventually. Got a lot of hate for it.
Trolled for it.
No, yeah. But he talked to me one time about that and was talking about movies that he would want to see remade. And I brought that one up about not doing it. And he had a good point. He's like, well, the concept of that movie, you could make like a 2020 teenager going back to the 90s to see his parents, and you could have the same concept and be very different and have this the whole culture shift of the time period opens up a lot of possibilities for a really fun movie. And I was like, well, damn, if you didn't just change my mind. So that's the movie where, like you say, don't remake a classic, where I'm like, well, if they had the right time and they had the right idea for it, then you could technically do it and hopefully do it well. But
plus it's like we always say too, the original's still there.
Yeah, there's that too. I hate when people, you ruin the original. Why? It's not Fahrenheit 451. If the remake comes out, they come to your house and blowtorch your fucking collection. Like, this doesn't exist anymore.
Dana Perez says, what was the first moment during the movie that makes you feel like, no, I can't with this?
In the third act, when everything started to really go fast and not really be that effective, is when I was like, no, this is everything up to the point of the girl in the bathtub. I was still mostly on board for. I knew it wasn't going to be as good as the Pet Sematary that I know and love by that point, but I was like, it's still a pretty good remake so far. There's things that they're missing, but as long as they deliver it in the third act, I can walk away somewhat happy with it. But from the point where he wakes up and she just turns murderous and everything just kind of gets shoved into 15 minutes during that whole exchange was when I was like,
no, you lost me. The turning on a dime from being a coherent zombie to evil is a bit. Have you given a score?
2.75 out of 5 is what I gave.
Yeah, I think I was 2.5 out of 5. I just want to come out and say I don't hate the movie. It's just oh, what a shame.
Yeah. That tends to be how people are with remakes, especially if you're a fan of the original. People either passionately love a remake or they're just kind of like, the original's a lot better. You know what I mean? It's one of those movies where I would rewatch it. I'll probably buy it when it comes out.
Yep.
I might like it more upon rewatch now that I know what to expect, but it fell very short of my expectations.
Yeah, I agree. It's a microcosm. It's a much smaller version of us. Great, some really unique ideas, and at least us paid some of them off. There were so many like, oh, why don't you go further with this, or why don't you go further with that? I'm not trying to compare this to us. Us is, that is a
totally different playing field.
A full steak. That is a 7-course meal compared to this. This is, fast food. But they're very similar in my frustrations with them. A lot of things that I was on board with, but didn't really get to see enough of. And both movies, Us on a second viewing, I liked it a bit more the second time. But Pet Sematary is just a disappointment.
Yeah, exactly. Ken Trulson, instead of remakes, would it be better with sequels? I actually think the concept of Pet Sematary can go off and do other stories. And I would be interested to see them. I don't necessarily want to see it go straight cheese like they did with Pet Sematary 2, but if you're not going to be able to deliver the story of the Creeds in a better way, or at least match it like they tried to with this one, I'd be up for taking the concept of Pet Sematary and doing something else with it. Not the same thing about another family moves in and they lose a kid, but the concept of this graveyard in this New England town that brings the dead back to life, and the Wendigo and everything out there, there's potential there to do other things with. I don't think that they necessarily will go that route, but
or even a soft reboot, like have it like, because it's the age of the internet now, have it be like there's this rumor and conspiracy theories on the internet where you have this family that's looking into ways, you could go dark with it because remember, Pet Sematary is pretty goddamn dark. They killed a kid. Have a family that that you got a guy who's terminally ill and he just whatever he can do to save himself, and it's a last ditch effort. Guys, I want you to bury me at this thing where they apparently bring people back to life, and hijinks ensue after he comes back.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of. I mean, you just kind of spewed that off the cuff there. So there's a lot of things you could do. Even you were talking about like conspiracies. Like you could have a group of kids. If you want to go the Stranger Things route, you got a group of kids where one of their pets fucking die, and they see these things. It's kind of like this little urban legend that they saw on the internet or something like that, and they decide to go find it, or they come across the Pet Sematary and it's been closed off for a while or something. And there's potential for the concept.
Sure.
Do I think they're going to do sequels or a mini series or anything like that? Probably not unless this movie makes ass loads of money, which I don't think it's going to.
I don't think it's going to.
Yeah. But yeah, I would be interested in that. If they greenlit it, I would certainly have an eyebrow raised. I wouldn't be like, no, don't leave it alone, don't touch it. Let me see. Maybe there will be a lot of good cut scenes on the Blu-ray. Possibly.
I hope not. I hope there is special features, but it'll just frustrate me more.
I would love to see an unrated cut that's 15, 20 minutes longer, but I don't think that we're in that DC Ultimate Cut age where there's totally different movies released on home video, but I don't think this is going to be one of them. Otherwise,
was it R?
Yeah, they said fuck a few times. So.
Okay.
But yeah, it wasn't as gory as I expected it to be. I expected them to go pretty.
Pascal.
The scene where Pascal's brain was showing was
She even says that. I could see his brain.
We can see it too. We don't need you to tell us. Let me see here. My bad for off subject. Are you going to do any Game of Thrones stuff on your channel for the new season? No, I'm not. I'm about 3 or 4 seasons behind on it. You?
Likewise, I own 1 through 4 and never bought it again. And
I own all of them, and I have yet to get through season 4, so I'm pretty behind.
Yeah, they're gonna make a fucking box set that'll be cheaper than catching up anyway. Because I think I looked recently, 1 through 7 is like I think $100. Where if I wanted to buy 5, 6, 7. It's a combined 110. It's just like, well, I'll just wait for the whole box set to come out.
Exactly. All right, let's see here. We got any more questions here? I want a part 2 to this remake. What happened to Gage? That is a busy road and Judd's house was on fire. Could somebody save Gage or Pascal lead somebody there? We don't know because they decided to end the movie.
Who started the fire at Judd's house too, by the way?
They whenever they were walking back towards the car that Gage was in, Lewis was holding a gas can.
Oh, that was off screen though, right? I don't think they showed them actually setting.
They didn't show them actually doing it. No, they just showed the house on fire, and then whenever you see the family, they're holding a gas can.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
They do use a cover of the Ramones song.
Yeah, it's not as good. It's that thing that they're doing now in a lot of trailers where they have a random woman sing an 80s upbeat song in like a slower downbeat version. It was the same thing. The only thing that set me off, or that tipped me off that it was the same song, was the opening riff to it. So yeah, they do.
80s horror documentary In Search of Darkness. Yeah. A lot of YouTubers are plugging that.
Search of Darkness, the 80s horror documentary. I haven't heard anything about it. I'm not much of a documentary guy.
Check your email box. You might have heard something about
it. Okay. Zombie Ellie was cringe. I wouldn't say she was cringe. It was just the whole concept was rushed. You know,
yeah.
We keep saying she was really interesting when she came home, and she's, you know, even just the subtle thing about her eye being fucked up from the impact and her hair kind of falling out and everything. It's like, well, how long are you going to be able to play this off? And then it just immediately she's murder girl. And the motivation about making the family zombies, I never really understood what the motivation with that was either, about why, you know, she seemed pissed off that she died and came back and nobody was accepting her right away. But they never really dove in or stopped to pivot for a minute to show why her motivation was to make the mom a zombie and in turn make dad a zombie and then in turn make Gage a zombie. Like, you know, why didn't she make Judd a zombie? You know, it's I don't know.
Yeah, way too much happened at the end there. It's just like, why? Who the fuck cares? How much of the gore was CGI'd out in the trailers compared to the movie?
I didn't see the second and third trailer, but there wasn't a whole lot of gore in the movie. They really cut out.
There wasn't noteworthy.
The brain. There's the scene where Judd's heel snaps, and then there's the. That's about it.
The fucking another thing that makes the first one a bit more emotional. The fucking the shot after the truck crash of the shoe just bouncing.
Oh, dude!
Like, dude, that's powerful. And nothing like that in this. Like a little shot, and man, it hits hard. None of that type of shit here.
No, they just see her in the grass. They don't show her. And the mom's reaction is this. It's like, that's it. All right. You know, I've seen a lot of scenes with grieving parents. That's not quite top 5, but
yeah, it rivals Ra's al Ghul, Talia al Ghul from Dark Knight Rises.
Yes. Hey, is it that Devin Graham? She wasn't creepy at all like Gage was. It was that very generic modern creepy. Just didn't buy it. Exactly, and that's one of the things that, you know, they change it. Gage was creepy because he's a baby. Like, it's a baby coming back and then having the mobility and the motivations of a full-grown adult, and the evil motivations of all that, and the way that he twisted his lines. You know, first Judd came and I played with Judd.
Yeah.
And then Mommy came and I came with Mommy. Now I want to play with you. Like,
yeah. The subversion of this cute little thing. And
and if it was just a kid saying that, like, it's cute, but because he knows what has happened, it's totally different. The same exact line delivered in 2 different scenes can be completely different. But she's not creepy at all because they don't marinate in it long enough. She turns into a slasher. They make her wear the rabbit mask in 1 second at Judd's house, which was an interesting direction that they never really played off on. And it just, Who would you say did the best job in this movie? I'm guessing you're saying acting wise. That's a tough one. What would you say?
I'll give the biggest improvement award to the Ellie character, because Ellie in 89 was borderline obnoxious.
Yeah, that's my one negative with the movie. So yeah, I'll agree with that for biggest improvement. I do, as much as he completely pales in comparison to Fred Gwynn, I do really like John Lithgow enough to where he is the thing in the movie where I'm like, he's one of the biggest draws for why I was interested in the movie in the first place and had hope for it. And I do just enjoy seeing him on screen, where Jason Clarke felt like he really missed the mark in the back half. The mom never really, just what they decided to do with her character, not really the fault of the actress, never really engaged with me very much. Gage is on the movie fucking long enough to even tell that kid can act. So yeah, it's really either comes down to Judd or Ellie. Ellie is the biggest improvement. Judd's the one that I'll probably walk away saying that I was most engaged with, I guess, which is it's not saying much. The cat was the best actor. Oh man. The director said it was hard for them to believe Gage would be like that because basically they didn't want to deal with the younger kid. Okay. If they actually said that, that's a pretty sorry fucking excuse to do everything that they did.
Wait, that's why they had Herbie the
Okay, according to Kyle Winfrey, that's what he is saying, is that one of the director's justification for doing that was that basically a nice way of saying they didn't want to hinge the movie on the performance of a 2-year-old. They did it pretty fucking well in '89.
I don't buy that. And if that's the case, that's weak with all the fucking CGI they use.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe. The end, Slasher in Suits, the ending was better. That is a busy road. Nobody sees a burning house. I hope Gage lives. I don't know. The ending was better compared to what?
For the ending for 19 is better than 89?
I don't think so at all.
A busy road.
Elaborate, Slasher.
Nobody sees a burning house. Well, in the shots that they show in the beginning, that all the houses are kind of far off the road, so and they're all covered in trees.
Maybe he's saying the ending's better where it is and not exploring what happened later on.
I don't think
we need warnings in your reviews when you're about to use footage of the original Zelda, so I can know where to skip in fear. Now.
Elm Street 3 greater than Pet Sematary. The
original or this remake?
Yeah, that's actually hard for me.
Totally different movies. I mean,
it's not an easy choice, even if it is the original. If I'm being frank.
No, it's not. It's not at all. Yeah, that would be a tough one. I'd have to sit on that one for a while. Let's see here.
Oh. So I'll be the asshole that talks about something different in your stream, because we haven't spoken, I think, face to face since the big Child's Play news is. And I know you dropped a video.
There we go.
Mark Hamill as Chucky. I mean, like before finding out what the voice was, what was like your percentage of expectation versus concern, and what is it now? And
I would say I was 70-30, 70% anticipation, 30% worry, because of the voice. Because if that voice is not there, if that voice fails, if that voice is not effective, then you can do all the cool shit you want with AI. It's not going to matter. It's not fucking Chucky. Now that Mark Hamill has been cast, I'm at like 85-15.
Wow. Okay.
I think that there's not a single person out there, voice actor wise, that they could have chosen to make the movie, to legitimize the movie the way that they just did for fans, in my opinion.
It's strange.
Not saying that there's not a voice actor out there that could do better than Mark Hamill, but for somebody that I was afraid that they were going to just get a familiar face of an actor, just a literal actor, because they tend to do that nowadays. All the big animated films, they show, the animation, they show the cast list, and it's fucking, Brad Pitt and Justin Long and all these characters that aren't necessarily voice actors, where back in the day animation was all voice actors, you know, people that did that for a profession. So nowadays I was afraid that they were going to go out and they were going to get somebody that we all knew just for the name's sake, and they went out and they got that, but they also got somebody who is known very prominently and respected for his voice acting work.
Do you think they're going to use him at all? Like maybe he's like the head of the company or something. Do you think we're going to see Mark Hamill as Mark Hamill at all?
I don't know, because I still don't know where things go wrong with Chucky. I don't know if somebody programs themselves into the doll. I don't know if somebody, you know, just screws around with the doll's interworkings and it goes bad. I don't know if he just becomes self-aware. I don't know where it comes from. So I don't know if there is a character like a Charles Lee Ray that it would make sense to have Mark Hamill play, other than to say, hey, it's Mark. I don't know. I think that I'm probably 70% on them not using him in a physical role, but I wouldn't hate it, and I wouldn't be surprised if he showed up for a second.
Yeah, it's the whole AI thing where I'm confused, or not confused, just curious as to where it could go with only having that information. All right, so we're going to have Mark Hamill's voice, and it's AI. All right, now how does that happen? I guess
I'm really curious too, because I haven't followed Mark Hamill's career, so I don't know if he has done this, but I'm trying to imagine like Brad Dourif style Chucky lines coming out of Mark Hamill, like,
oh wow, yeah,
fuck you, fucking bitch. Like, I just want to. Is Mark Hamill?
Oh right, Mark Hamill dropping F-bombs. Yeah, wait a minute.
Yeah, so that's something where I was like, is it going to happen that way, or is it going to be a totally different take where it's going to actually be more, maybe PG-13 kind of lines with the gore being your rated R draw? But I'm curious. I'm curious where they're going to go. Like, it's still. I'm fucking dripping with anticipation for, and it's gonna, so much riding on it.
What are your top 3 horrors so far this year? Have there even been 3?
Top 3 like that I've seen, or top 3 that I'm looking forward to?
That was my follow-up question.
Oh, okay. Well, what have we got? We've got Us, we've got Pet Sematary, we've got Escape Room.
I think there is only 3. Shit.
Not 3, not in that order. Is there more than people chime in the chat with the horror movies that have been released this year? Is it just
did you see Greta? I don't think Greta counts as a horror.
No, I didn't see Greta. I wanted to, but I heard so much shit about it. I was like, okay, well, I'm not hiring a babysitter for that.
Yeah, that's
Us is probably my favorite so far this year, and it's still a movie that I didn't really love. So I would say Us.
Does Glass count?
No, not in my opinion.
Okay.
I would struggle with whether or not I liked Escape Room or Pet Sematary more, to be honest with you.
Wow, that close.
It's that close, because Escape Room is definitely a lower grade type of movie, but they execute the hell out of that concept.
Yeah.
God, I'd have to like rewatch Escape Room.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm struggling with it. The Prodigy and Happy Death Day 2. Happy Death Day 2 is 15% horror. The Prodigy I didn't see. I did like Happy Death Day 2 more than I liked Us, though. Although I prefer the type of movie that Us is leaps and bounds over the type of movie that Happy Death Day 2 is.
All right, so anticipated then.
Anticipated. Well, this was my number 2 of the year. So what's left? Child's Play is definitely number 1. Number 2 is probably It Chapter 2, and number 3, which I haven't seen the trailer for, so I'm assuming it's horror, Brightburn.
Yeah, it's got to be horror. That was in the beginning of Pet Sematary for me last night.
So. It was too. I walked in and it was playing, and I looked at my phone. I didn't want to be the asshole that walks to the theater and goes, "Oh nope," and then walks right back out. Yeah, I didn't. I barely paid attention to the sounds of the trailer. I didn't watch any of it, so I'm trying to go into that one blind if it's possible.
Does Hellboy count for you
as a horror? Supposedly they're supposed to be going in that direction, but they're not showing it in the trailer. I mean, it's supposed to be more gory, rated R, darker, and everything like that. But the trailer makes it look like a sitcom.
Yeah.
I don't. It's definitely got horror themes to it, if nothing else.
Have you seen anything for La Lorna? Yeah, whatever the
It looks
curse.
like it could be good, but it looks like the standard James Wan kind of horror movie. You know what I mean? I think he's producing it or something like that. Like he's got these little sets of directors, like David F. Sandberg was. That he's kind of mentoring, but they basically make James Wan movies. And it looks like it's going to be creepy. It looks like it could be good. It could go Annabelle Creation or it could go The Nun. You know what I mean? I don't know whenever I go see it, but yeah, I've seen the trailer a couple times. It looks like it might be good. It's not on my like radar though.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if anything. It seems like there's nothing for the second half of the year, but Child's Play is pretty big up there, and Brightburn's pretty big.
I think October, the only thing we got is 3 from Hell, if I'm not mistaken. But then they tend to announce little tiny movies closer to the release date. It's not really something that they anticipate back in March and April. But Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. There you go. That's a good one. That looks like it's going to be interesting. I think.
Oh, Zombieland 2 is coming this year. That's mostly a comedy, though.
Yeah, that's October. Yeah, that. I don't know. I hope it's good, but then again, we have a shitty track record with comedies waiting, 7, 8, 10 years to do the sequel.
Oh, right. There was a trailer for Annabelle too.
Oh yeah, that looks kind of interesting because it's basically the Warrens. It's back in their house and involves their daughter and stuff like that. So I'm intrigued by that because I really liked Annabelle Creation a lot.
I don't think I've seen that.
The first Annabelle, I don't even think is as bad as a lot of people make it out to be. It's not good, but it's definitely got some creepy stuff in it. But Annabelle Creation, I thought was pretty damn good. So I'll be there to see that one for sure. I'm almost burnt out on The Conjuring and Annabelle, says Lori Hackney. Yeah, I'm pretty close to that. I could take one more Conjuring film because they're promising to go in a big, bold new direction. But after that, I'm good.
The Conjuring CU.
Huh?
The Conjuring Cinematic Universe.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Ma.
There you go. That looks like it's going to be freaking crazy. Have you seen the trailer for that?
Yeah.
It looks pretty wild. I don't know.
Midsummer.
We'll see. The trailer does nothing for me. It's going off.
Thank you. Yes.
It's going off of, hey, the guy that did Hereditary's got a new movie coming out, and that's it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, did you see the trailer for that Adam Driver, Bill Murray movie where it's
no
zombie? It was just released.
I thought it was an April Fool's joke, so I didn't bother with it.
I did too. I'm like, wow, they put a lot of production into this joke here. See, of this list that thank you in the chat, they've been listing off. I still think it's Child's Play 1, but I might be anticipating Brightburn more than it, if I'm being completely honest.
I need to see a trailer for it before I can say whether or not I'm looking forward to more. But I'm looking forward to out of pure morbid curiosity because I knew what to expect out of It Chapter 1. I don't know what to expect out of It Chapter 2 because they're not going to be able to do the same shit, or they're going to fucking
bore the fuck out of everybody.
Yeah, they're going to tank. You know what I mean? If I see a spider anywhere in that trailer, I'm out. Yeah, that's where I'm curious about it. And I've read things about the CinemaCon footage and some of the stuff that makes it sound like it's going to be pretty crazy. So, give me a trailer, and I might side with you on that one. I'm not sure yet. Lori Hackney, is The Haunting of Sharon Tate going to be up there with the Ted Bundy movie? I saw the trailer of that. That's the one with Hilary Duff. I don't know when it's coming out, but it looked pretty interesting. And then Ted Bundy, they released another trailer because it was supposed to be released like way later on this year after Netflix grabbed it, but I guess they bumped it back up. It's coming out next month. And this new trailer was no messing around. It was all grim and dark, and I'm looking forward to it.
I'm cautiously optimistic for that.
Yeah.
But I'm glad Netflix has it. So there's, I don't know if you're the same way, but when I watch movies at home, there's a certain, I don't have that much pressure on a movie if I'm watching it in my own environment. Like, it just helps my experience a bit if I don't have to put pants on, I can get
Depends on the movie. I'm growing to where I can't fucking stand seeing certain movies with an audience anymore.
Yeah.
Horror. Pet Sematary is the first horror film that I've seen in probably 7 or 8 months that hasn't ended with me being pissed off through at least half of it. Because people on their fucking cell phones, or people talking, or people laughing at a jump scare and then not shutting the fuck up for the next 5 minutes, or all the things that go wrong. It just drives me nuts.
It's a shame because a really good theater experience, you really can't beat it. Like if everybody's scared and laughing at the same time, like it that helps the experience.
Mm-hmm.
But a really bad movie experience at the theater kind of hurts the film, as far as I'm concerned.
It does. It hurts your experience because it just puts you in a mood, puts you in a sour mood, and you just experience everything in the movie differently in that mood. Everything you didn't like, you don't like even more. Everything that you did like, you don't like as much. So yeah, it does. But yeah, certain movies, like I watched the Highwaymen last weekend with Woody Harrelson and Kevin Costner. And if I had paid to see that movie, I'd be a lot harder on it. But when I watched it at home, I was like, all right, cool. And, and you're right. So it is a type of, it depends on the movie,
That was Triple Frontier for me. I really enjoyed that movie, and I
need to watch that still. I keep forgetting about it.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's quite all right, that movie.
Cool.
What? I choose morning shows if I can dive out of work. Empty cinemas at the experience room. I don't understand what that means. Morning shows.
Saying he goes to early showing, so less people. Oh,
I thought he meant like cartoons. I'm like, morning
Saturday morning cartoons are stress free. But yeah, me and my dad used to do that, but there's not really too many early shows anymore, at least around here. And there used to be like 10 o'clock movies back when I was a kid, and you could go and it'd be like one person in the fucking theater. Now the earliest one's at like 1.
Yeah, and the latest ones are like 9 now. Which is bullshit, because when I managed the movie theater, we would have like midnight 30 shows, and I wouldn't be able to leave until like 3, 4 in the morning.
Oh yeah, they're doing that for Endgame. They're putting
right
11 o'clock show or some shit like that. I was like, well, that fucking sucks for whoever works there.
And you got your 6 p.m. tickets without any? Oh, you're doing the
fan event thing. Yeah.
See, what is that? Is that 2 movies, or is that like special features?
No, it's basically you get to see it an hour earlier than everybody else, and you get a drink and popcorn.
Jesus.
There might be some footage or something like that, like a special thing, but no, I was trying to figure that out. I was like, are we playing both Infinity War and Endgame? What is this? But it was the only thing that the theater that Holly used to work at was doing was the fan event that night. So I was like, well, I guess I'm stuck. I guess I'm paying $22 a ticket.
Yeah. But, yeah, sometimes it's neat stuff. Sometimes they give you like, a documentary. Sometimes
there's a collectible popcorn bin and shit. I think I did it for The Last Jedi. It was either The Last Jedi or Infinity War. We did it. And it was cool.
I have a popcorn bin from Last Jedi. Yeah. A lot of it's pretty, they make it worth the extra $5, $6 that they're not wasting any of that. Like the movie theater, they're not paying anything extra to feed you. But, if they make it special and give you like a special cup and glasses, fucking, whatever.
Smooths it over.
Yeah, it's fun.
I paid my kids with that cup in a couple of days.
Yeah, I just want to see it early. I don't care about your shenanigans.
Exactly. Heartbreaker. Cody, does your dad love Freddy's Dead? Abso-fucking-lutely not. People love to ask me about Freddy's Dead. I don't understand. Like, I know it's kind of the winking, like, hey, you like Freddy's Dead, but it's a question, and it's a concept that gets brought up constantly. And it's just like,
I don't understand.
Somebody talks about Freddy's Dead and Killer Flicks, I get tagged.
And it's not like, it's not like it's something that a lot of people disagree with. It's a shit movie. It's not like you're saying, The Shining's the worst thing ever. Freddy's Dead is pretty fucking bad.
Yeah, exactly. It's got its fans, but it's just, no. My dad doesn't like most of the 80s slashers and stuff like that I like now. Like he has some of the, he grew up watching the Friday the 13th films and has kind of that nostalgia for memories of seeing it, but he does not like them at all when he rewatches them now. I tried to get him to watch Sleepaway Camp. I think he made it 15 minutes in and brought it back to me, and he's like, yeah, I'm not watching that. So even the Freddy movies, like he loves the first one, he loves the third one, probably New Nightmare, like the serious ones he likes, but I don't think you could probably get him to watch 4 or 5 or anything like that anymore. So like my dad's kind of some of the campy, like, you know, the so bad that it's good 80s movies. He doesn't really have that appreciation for them much anymore. So movies that I'm discovering now, like you sent me Brain Scan, like movies like that I watch and I'm kind of like, oh, that's kind of cool, like some 90s little bit of 90s cheese and everything in there and everything. I'd give it to him and he'd be like, you know. So it's, my dad's a little, his tastes have changed quite a bit since he's gotten older.
I can't tell if that's really you, Dennis, or if you're the imposer dude, but my mom liking Jason X, I don't understand the question. I don't think she's.
I think he's joking about the kid saying, "Does my dad love Freddy's Dead?" So he's picking the Jason.
Oh, okay. Look at you. Look at you getting it. Yeah.
Come on, comedian, let's go.
Yeah.
I had that same moment today. You're so used to troll comments that you can't pick up sarcasm anymore. You're like, what the fuck does that mean? So,
dude, words on a screen, man. They gotta invent like a tone button because.
Exactly. Or you need an obligatory wink or something like that. So you know what you're getting, or so like a different color of the text, something.
Yeah.
You can read it and you're like, that's good. Because you can read the same sentence in a bad mood and you're like, fuck is this shit supposed to mean? You know, it's just, you're so used to oh yeah, Lori Hackney. So she's the one that this morning I was it's an example what I was talking about. I was scrolling through it was one of my posts. I think it was about Pet Sematary. And she said along the effect of like, well, there's no guy flying around in a cape, so we know you're not going to like it. And I was like, what does that mean? Like, there's plenty of superhero movies I don't like, but then, yeah, it was her being sarcastic. But you read so many troll comments of them saying that and being serious, like this fucking guy doesn't like anything. You know what I mean? It's
yeah,
like,
and plus you put your own mental tone to it when you're reading it, whether or not it's even supposed to be perceived that way. You're like, what the fuck's this?
Yeah, exactly. Superhero comment? Question mark. Inside joke. All right, let's see. All right, well, let's take 5 more questions and then we'll head out. It's been we're coming up on 2 hours now. Let's see.
Oh, before so give them time to ask questions. How do you what is the tone of Pet Sematary for you?
The tone?
No, the new one. Like, so tell me what you felt the tone was for the original and the tone for this one is, because I feel like they're different.
The first one kind of has this cloud over it from the beginning where it's like this impending doom, this impending death, this kind of ickiness about there's something we need to talk about, but we don't really want to talk about it until we're forced to talk about it. This new movie, it feels, I hate to use the word because it's got such a negative connotation. It feels more generic. It feels more, hey guys, you're in a horror movie. And it's got atmosphere to it. It's like when they're going through the cemetery and stuff like that, like the basement when you have that little door and it's just darkness and you hear the, you know, Rachel and stuff like it's got atmosphere to it. It's not all bad. We harped on the negatives because it's easier and it's more prominent, but it just, the tone of the new movie is Hollywood horror movie.
Yeah, plain.
Yeah.
Nothing noteworthy, nothing that jumps out. Yeah, all right, yeah.
Lori Hackney. In my mind, Cody hates everything and Lee loves everything. So when y'all flip, I get confused.
Lee's been known to be a little over the top with his hatred towards things.
Lee is very emotional. And he will admit this fully. He's very emotional with his first reactions, especially where if he likes something, he really likes it. If he doesn't like something, it's the worst thing ever. So like you get an Ant-Man and the Wasp, and he talks about it like it's, you know, Freddy's dead, and then you get Us, and he talks about it like it's Citizen Kane.
Yeah, a lot of it's rhetoric and hyperbole with Lee, though. It's,
He's very excitable both ways.
Right.
He said it both ways, and it's funny too because Killer Flicks is starting to kind of get in on our joke about how he flips his opinions, and it's not going to be funny for very much longer because he posted his review. They're like, "You need to see it 2 more times and then review it," and I'm like, "Oh, it's going to get beaten to the ground now."
Yeah, that's why I don't joke like that anymore in Killer Flicks because I'm like, no. You're not in the group. You don't eat at our table. Stop doing our things.
Oh, things. Oh man. Brennan Wood, Cody, if you were in charge of the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, how would you handle it? Don't do another remake. Just do a Nightmare on Elm Street. Like do the Dream Warriors approach where it starts. Freddy's already been doing his shit. You don't need any explanation about where this is in the timeline. You don't need any explanation about what happened to Nancy, what happened to Mark Patton. It's just, you start. You have teenager A having nightmares, Freddy's there, and then you get introduced to this group of cast later on. You could even, you don't even need a middle act Nancy entrance or anything like that. Just get a group of characters, get the kill scenes, kill the dream sequences written and you kind of storyboarded out to where they're going to be really unique and exciting and executed well. Formulate your story that's going to fit with the franchise, but try to do something a little bit new with it, kind of like how Dream Warriors introduced the Dream Powers and stuff like that. But don't try to do a remake. Don't bring in Nancy. Don't try to copy off of, or don't try to trail off of the 2010 movie. Don't do the Halloween 2018 thing where we're going to go back and we're going to get Heather Langenkamp to play, Nancy, and nothing's been happening for 40 years. Don't do any of that shit. Just make a Nightmare on Elm Street movie and start it. You don't need any explanation of where it starts in the timeline. That's my approach. And cast an unknown actor that can deliver a new version of Freddy that we're not going to see the fucking actor underneath the makeup. What's your take? Same thing?
Yeah, more the same. If not, just a gentle and easy way to introduce him back to the forefront is the same thing they did in Freddy vs. Jason. Just have, again, back to the internet thing. Somebody stumbles across a story about Freddy, and that's how he gets planted into their thought. And
you can even have it like, did you ever see the Bye Bye Man?
I think so. I saw Emily editing it.
Because you would remember. But in the Bye Bye Man, they do this thing, and I'm not saying do the approach to the Bye Bye Man, but the thing is basically dormant until they find the Bye Bye Man written on something. And as soon as the kid says it, it's ignited again. You can have the same thing with Freddy, where you don't have to explain why, but like you said with Freddy versus Jason, he's been dormant or he was defeated somehow, and they've kind of forgotten about him.
Yeah.
Some kid unearths some article, and just that little bit of fear starts again, and do it like that. So
and that's the exposition too for people who somehow don't know anything about this character. You have the exposition. You're learning with this character, and you get reintroduced just like that. I mean, that's just me. Freddy isn't as important to me as some others.
I'm with you. They don't need a whole lot of explanation. Freddy's common knowledge at this point. There's going to be maybe 5% of people that go see a new Nightmare on Elm Street that doesn't know who the fuck Freddy Krueger is. Maybe even 2%. Tyler Rumfeld. This is why I don't go see these movies and believe these reviews by big critics. People want to see Hollywood horror movies, and to me, they are more cliche than anything. And to me, it's lazy. I actually think critics are harder on Hollywood horror movies than they are anything else. I think critics nowadays want to see things like that have like social context, like Get Out, like Us, like Hereditary and stuff like that, where they're going for the things that are kind of brewing beneath the surface. I think the reason that critics are kind of running away with this movie is because the 1989 movie is not a critic darling. So most critics don't really have much of a shit to give about the original Pet Sematary.
That's a strong score for this movie.
Yeah, it's 79, 80% or some shit like that.
Yeah.
People were coming out of South by Southwest losing their mind about it. The only person that said it wasn't good was my buddy Tyler, and I was like, I hope I don't agree with you. And then when I got at the theater, I sent him a video. I was like, I didn't love it. And he started laughing.
Yeah, dude, like when you go off like premieres, really be guarded about that shit. Like, I think we had this discussion somewhere else. Clerks 2 had a 15-minute standing ovation. So so fucking these premieres, people get a little excited.
Still fucking clapping.
Can we just sit now already? Shit.
I can't imagine even watching a 15-minute standing ovation, let alone participating. Like, Jesus Christ, they did it.
I can imagine it.
Oh.
Thank you. Good night. My name's Charles Patterson. Good night. Oh, no. Come on, guys. Really?
It's 15. Can we go for 20? Lord Moon. So back to the important question: is Elm Street 3 better than the original Pet Sematary?
Good.
Pet Sematary is probably the better movie. Elm Street 3 is probably more entertaining and something I rewatch more often. Maybe
depends on what mood you're in.
Yeah. Let's see.
I'd agree with that. Pet Sematary is a better movie, but Nightmare is more fun.
Yes. I think the score for Pet Sematary is at 67% on Rotten Tomatoes now and 49% for audiences. That sounds accurate.
Yeah, that's a little bit closer to what I feel. New Joker trailer. Did you see?
Oh, yeah. I was going to do a trailer reaction because everybody was commenting that, but it was a busy night. I literally came home and cooked dinner, cleaned up dinner, cooked dessert, cleaned up dessert, and went the fuck to bed. So it was it's really got my anticipation.
And you squeeze YouTube into all that, huh?
Yeah. I yeah.
I'm sorry, I was cutting you off. The trailer.
Got me stuck now. I'm just waiting for somebody to chime. Fuck does that mean? But
question mark.
Joker trailer. Okay, yeah. So I was interested in the Joker movie about the same amount that I was wondering why the fuck we need a Joker movie. But that trailer's got me intrigued. It kind of looks like Travis Bickle, like some kind of a taxi driver approach, which makes sense because Scorsese is supposed to be producing it to some degree. I'm a little bit, and I'm hoping it's just because they're not showing it in the trailer, because I wouldn't want them to show it in the trailer. I'm hoping they don't go so restricted and so grounded that we never really do get true maniacal Joker by the end of the movie. It looks like a guy who's just kind of slowly descending into madness a little bit like that, a little bit more of a slow burn, Scorsese style approach to the story. But I do want to see comic book Joker by the end of the movie. But everything is good.
Todd Phillips is directing it, though, right? It's not Scorsese.
No, Todd Phillips is directing it. Yeah. Joaquin Phoenix looks like he's going to do great. I imagine a lot of people, when you walk out of this movie, you're gonna get that age-old debate, like who's better, him or Heath Ledger. Yeah. The makeup has grown on me quite a bit. I didn't really love it on the still images that we got at first, but seeing it in motion, it looks pretty damn good. I'm intrigued. It's jumped up quite a bit on my anticipated list. I'll say that. It's probably at least top 4, top 5 now.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I agree. It is a movie where it's just like, all right, well, what are you going to wrap around this character? This is what Suicide Squad should have been. But
my thing is just like, dude, like the Joker is probably my favorite comic book villain of all time, and he is one of the best villains to bring to the screen. But give him a fucking break for a while. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like it's just there's so much Batman villains, especially that we need to see that we haven't seen yet, and it's like, okay, the 8th incarnation of the Joker. Here we go, and it's. I hope the movie's great. If it's great, I'm gonna love it. It's probably gonna be in my top 5 favorite movies of the year because I'm a fucking DC fanatic. I'm a Batman fanatic. I'm a Joker fanatic. But I'm just tired of the Joker. Yeah, and this is not setting up like the Joker for the Batman movie or anything like that. This is not something that's going to continue. This is a one and done. So
I'll remember those. Oh man.
Yeah, which is nice. Nice, but at the same time, they're making it pretty clear that they're kind of abandoning the Jared Leto Joker. So whenever we get the Batman thing rolling again, we're going to get another Joker. Like, and it's just like the Joker's great, but we got a lot of fucking villains we can get to.
It's strange. I'm a bit of a hypocrite because I fully accepted and fell in love with the whole chaos aspect of Joker from Dark Knight, where it's like, what does it matter what his past is? He's just chaos incarnate. I'm like,
yeah,
that's pretty neat. But then at the same time, it's just like, what was it? What was the animated one that came out of
Killing Joke?
Killing Joke. Yeah, that, you know, I liked both of them. So it's hard for me to say no or yes one way or another. We do have a lot of Joker, but at the same time, we have a lot of Jason. We have a lot of.
That's a fair point. I think mine is just selfish, just because I'm a Batman fan, and I know there's so many awesome villains out there that we just never focus on. And the WB is just always trying to figure out how we can bring another version of the Joker to life, and it's just like, dude, fucking Black Mask, the Riddler, Clayface, you know, the Man Bat. There's so many different villains where you can get all these, and that's one thing that I think Christopher Nolan did really well, even though he did use the Joker, was he kind of used villains that you wouldn't expect to a degree and try to bring something new to them. Like Ra's al Ghul, nobody really knew or gave a fuck about him until Batman Begins. Bane, we only knew because he was a joke in Batman and Robin. So it's like, there's things you can do with the Joker. Plus you got the whole Gotham, which I'm not watching, but you have Gotham going on right now, and that whole incarnation of like 3 or 4 different Jokers. So it's just like, it just feels a little oversaturated by now, but the trailer was great. So I hope the movie's as good as the trailer was. I guess we'll wrap it up. I don't really see anybody asking too many questions, and I'll scroll really quick, but more so just kind of commentary on what we're talking about here. The laugh was great in the trailer. Yeah, it was. Yeah. Okay. Did you like the Arkham Knight video game? Yeah, I thought it was great. You thought it was repetitive and boring. That's what I said. I thought the Arkham Knight was awesome. Any closing thoughts on Pet Sematary? Anything else? Child's Play? The World of Horror?
I'm excited. I'm excited for Child's Play. The Mark Hamill news certainly makes it a hell of a lot more interesting. I think I was more interested in anticipating Pet Sematary, if you asked me, in January.
It was close for me. I edged out Child's Play just because I have a lot more deep-seated love for Chucky than anybody else in our little group. But it was close. Yeah,
and now with that done and dusted, I've kind of mentally added some pressure to Child's Play that I'm not comfortable putting on it, because I don't want to expect anything from Child's Play, and I know Mancini has nothing to do with this, but this good bad run that we've been on with Child's Play, we're due for good by that math, but I just I don't want to expect too much, and if it's good, that makes me appreciate it more, but I can't help but get more and more excited with especially with this Mark Hamill news. It's like, all right, something great. Like we were talking about with Pet Sematary, John Lithgow as Judd. I was like, okay, great. And if you ask me what my most disappointing character in Pet Sematary, I would say John Lithgow. Nothing against his acting was fine. It's just that the character wasn't fleshed out. It really didn't match. I mean, as a whole, there's just no emotion to Pet Sematary. So,
yep.
I'm just nervous. I'm nervous. We've been doing so good with horror lately that we're starting to get a little spoiled.
Mm-hmm. Cody, did you hear the leaked audio of Mark's Chucky voice? I've only heard that it's displayed from one source, and it's a source that I don't trust as far as I can throw. So I'm not putting any eggs into that basket. I'm waiting for the trailer. So I'm not, and I have heard it, yes, and it sounds uncomfortably close to Brad Dourif. I don't necessarily want it to sound like a Brad Dourif impersonation, so I'm not putting any eggs into that basket. If the trailer ends up being that, then so be it. But I'm waiting for the trailer to come out so that I can get a timestamp from a friend that watched it, and then I can go right to that point. Yeah, that's my thoughts on that. But yeah, huge anticipation for Child's Play. I'm going to try my best not to put it too high on the expectation list and end up with another Halloween 2018 on my hands. But it's going to be hard. But I'm going to try to work it where I'm going to try to separate it as much as I can from the original series and just go in and hopefully they do something really cool and unique with it. But that is my, aside from Endgame, my most anticipated for probably the next half of the year. So we'll see with it. So that's pretty much it, guys. If you want to find CP, tell us one more time where we could find you and what we could find over there.
Wiliscredia, YouTube /C/WILI. You know, a lot of stuff. I try to say I'm not a horror channel, but more and more horror content comes, and a lot more grimy movies that nobody really should be watching. Stuff like Salo, Serbian film, and Emily and I have been doing a lot of reviews lately. So there's that.
Cool. I got to address something in the chat really quick before we head off. We got Waluigi #1 that said twice now that he hopes that Child's Play will suck and bomb. And my question is why? Even if you're a fan and you're a fanatic of what Don Mancini's doing and you have that loyalty that everybody has, all of a sudden nowadays, why would you want the Child's Play theatrical release to bomb? I've made videos about this. Even if you don't support it, you should want it to succeed, because if this movie makes a lot of money, guess what's going to happen? Universal's going to say, hey, Don, people are apparently interested in Child's Play again. You want to do a theatrical release now and get away from this Sci-Fi Channel shit? And then you will get more in the series that you love. And if the movie's good, guess what? Nothing's happening to Don Mancini. Nothing's happening to Brad Dourif. Nothing's happening to the Universal franchise. Now you have the Universal Chucky and you have the MGM Chucky. It's just more Chucky. It's more stuff that you love. So I don't understand this misplaced loyalty where people want this thing to fail in any way, shape, or form. So I think that's completely ignorant. I think that's ridiculous. And I can't wait to stand in front of a camera in June and tell everybody how awesome it was. So that's my closing thoughts. Yeah, so go check out Wiliscredia. You can subscribe to his channel over there. We got quite a bit of like back and forth as far as like different streams and spoiler talks and stuff like that. I've guested on Show Business, which he does every single Monday. I'm sure I'll be on there again at some point. So keep an eye out for that. Scream stream this weekend at some point. We're going to be talking about.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Pet Sematary predominantly, but Stephen King movies in general a lot. So
Chucky probably, I'm assuming too.
Yeah, probably something like that. So check us out on that. And thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and take care, everybody.